Chapter 39-45. Kong Xinmu continued to observe the situation of the battle. Today was the last day of the preliminary round of the clan martial competition. The battle between him and Zhang Shijian just now was the first match, and there were still many battles to be carried out. After 4 days of observation, Kong Xinmu had a rough understanding of the strength of the majority of the genius dragon warriors participating in the clan martial competition. However, there were a few who were especially strong, but they still hadn't displayed the slightest bit of their true fighting strength. For example, the strongest genius of the Meng clan, Meng Chou, was now an inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood essence at the 4th level of the divine martial realm. Even though Kong Xinmu had reached the 1st level of the divine martial realm, it was still extremely difficult for him to defeat Meng Chou. It was even close to impossible. If he were to fight with Meng Chou now, the possibility of Kong Xinmu losing was very high. Fortunately, Kong Xinmu had been constantly devouring his opponent's innate ability for the past 5 days, so he had a certain resistance to some innate ability. Meng Chou's innate ability was the power of a huge rock. There was also the strongest genius dragon warrior of the Zhang clan, Zhang Feng, whose innate ability was the power of the spiritual fire. Its destructive power was extremely terrifying. As long as I can devour the power of a huge rock in the semi-finals, I will be able to fight against these two guys. There are also some other inheritors of the heavenly dragon blood essence at the 3rd level of the divine martial realm. They can't be ignored. Kong Xinmu swept his gaze over the situation in the arena and began to think of a plan in his heart. He had already come this far and won all 5 days. He didn't want to give up halfway. His father, Jiang Zizai, was able to win 1st place in the clan martial competition and sweep away all the dragon warriors. Then he must do the same. Otherwise, how could he find the missing Jiang Zizai? With his current strength, it was impossible for him to go to a place where even Jiang Zizai had disappeared, let alone find Jiang Zizai. Therefore, he had to be stronger than the previous Jiang Zizai. Then, let's start with this clan martial competition. With the goal of 1st place in the clan martial competition, I will always be able to think of a way. He had already memorized all the opponents he might encounter. Then on the last day before all the battles had ended, he left the arena and went to another place in the city, the Life and Death Arena. The Life and Death Arena was a place in Dragon Prison City where dragon martial artists could fight against demonic beasts. This was a cruel place, but at the same time, it allowed dragon warriors to obtain the greatest amount of tempering. This was because each of the demon beasts imprisoned in the Life and Death Arena had experienced many life and death battles. They all had their own ways of dealing with dragon warriors. It was extremely difficult to kill these demonic beasts. There were even dragon warriors who often died in the Life and Death Arena, becoming food for those demonic beasts. Therefore, normally, only those dragon martial artists who were extremely short of money would come to the Life and Death Arena to provide entertainment and fight with these demonic beasts. Now, Kong Xinmu's goal was to find a battle in the Life and Death Arena. The semi-finals are about to begin. The Life and Death Arena is about to begin. Kong Xinmu was very clear about his current weakness. Compared to Meng Chou, Zhang Feng and the other genius dragon warriors, he only lacked time. However, with the existence of the devouring power, he could use other methods to make up for the lack of time. That was to devour the power of the demonic beasts and increase his resistance to certain powers. Right now, Kong Xinmu did not have the time to go out of the Dragon Prison City. Therefore, he could only target the demonic beasts in the Life and Death Arena. Obviously, there was another advantage in the Life and Death Arena, and that was that he could choose any demonic beasts as his opponent. If he wanted to deal with Meng Chou, he had to choose a demonic beast that possessed the power of a giant rock and devour the power of a giant rock in its body to increase his resistance to the power of a giant rock. If he was going to fight with Zhang Feng, he would choose a demonic beast that possessed the power of fire and devour the power of fire to increase his resistance to the power of fire. There was also a series of other innate abilities. Kong Xinmu was able to find the corresponding demonic beast in the Life and Death Arena and devour its power, turning it into his own resistance to the power of the demonic beast. Without a doubt, this way, Kong Xinmu would be able to obtain the power to defeat those genius experts. After all, his opponent had awakened 2 years earlier than him. 2 more years of cultivation time brought about a gap that was almost impossible to make up for. If he did not possess the devouring power, he would have long given up on the goal of becoming the number 1 in the clan martial competition. But now, he was still able to give it a try. Although it was only a temporary and targeted increase in strength, after obtaining first place in the clan martial competition, he would be able to obtain more cultivation resources. He would be able to cultivate at a faster speed and achieve his goal of finding his father, Jiang Zizai. Kong Xinmu came to the life and death arena alone. Jiang Yuaning and Shi Yueying, who were more concerned about him, quietly followed behind him and met outside the life and death arena. Miss Shi, you also followed him here? I wonder what he came to the life and death arena for. Could it be that he is looking for an opportunity to make a breakthrough? Jiang Yuaning's face was filled with worry. Shi Yueying's expression was somewhat ice-cold, but she was still slightly warmer towards Jiang Yuaning. I don't know about him, but no matter what he wants to do, I will support him. Let's go in together. The two girls followed Kong Xinmu and stepped into the life and death arena. Without a doubt, the two girls directly paid the money and went to the spectator stands of the life and death arena. Here, there were many high-ranking officials and nobles eating, drinking and playing, watching the bloody and cruel battle in the life and death arena. Among these people, there were many who were not even dragon warriors and had yet to awaken. They were born in some dragon warrior families, so even if they did not want to make progress, they would still be carefree for the rest of their lives. The life and death arena was one of the more expensive places. Because here, they could see bloody battles that they normally could not see. 4 ordinary warriors who were unable to awaken. The battle between the dragon warriors and the demon beasts was extremely exciting. It could awaken the bloodthirsty seed in the depths of their hearts and make them go crazy. Seeing the two delicate girls, Shi Yueying and Jiang Yuaning, arrive at the VIP seats, many men dressed in expensive clothes turned their gazes over and whispered to each other, as if they were discussing who they were. These two girls are really beautiful. Especially that ice-cold one. I really want to bring her home. Shoo! Are you courting death? Bastard, that's the young miss of the Shi family. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. So it's the young miss of the Shi family. But what is she doing here? She is a dragon warrior. It doesn't seem like she can find any fun in the life and death arena, right? Furthermore, the clan martial competition is currently in progress. It's said that her lover is participating in the clan martial competition. How could she have the leisure to come to the life and death arena? Many people were puzzled. They recognized Shi Yueying's identity, so they naturally did not dare to act recklessly. However, they were very curious. What was Shi Yueying doing in the life and death arena? Soon they knew. Chapter 3946. Kong Xinmu set foot in the arena of life and death. He came to the arena to devour a specific power, so he chose a giant rock bear from the very beginning. This was a powerful demonic beast with a relatively pure bloodline and a very powerful ancient bloodline. Its strength was equivalent to that of a dragon warrior who had inherited the sky dragon blood essence. It had a cultivation of the second tier of the heavenly demon realm, which was equivalent to the second tier of the divine martial realm. Heavenly demons have talents, just like the golden dragon lion from before. It used its talent to defeat Xia Tianhan and Zhang Xianjian. Kong Xinmu was very cautious. Even though he had defeated Zhang Xijian, he did not take the giant rock bear lightly. He knew very well that the giant rock bear's fighting strength was probably much higher than Zhang Xijian's, because this demonic beast had won 13 battles in a row in the arena of life and death. According to the rules of the arena of life and death, the inheritors of the sky dragon blood essence could not surpass the second tier of the divine martial realm, and the inheritors of the true dragon blood essence could not surpass the third tier of the divine martial realm. Therefore, there had been 13 dragon warriors who had failed and died in the giant rock bear's hands, becoming its food. Now, as the inheritor of the sky dragon blood essence who had reached the first tier of the divine martial realm, Kong Xinmu had come to challenge the giant rock bear, which immediately attracted the attention of the arena of life and death. Before leading Kong Xinmu to choose his opponent, the steward of the arena of life and death had told Kong Xinmu that he was worried that something would happen to him in the arena of life and death. After all, he was a young man favored by the sacred dragon of the Shi clan. If he died in the arena of life and death, it would not be good for their business in the future. However, Kong Xinmu repeatedly promised that he would not die and told the steward of the fact that he had defeated Zhang Xijian today. If I win, I will get 1 million dragon coins and half of the guests' tips. If I lose, I will lose my life, right? Kong Xinmu confirmed the rules and then chose the giant rock bear as his opponent. He was first led by the steward of the arena of life and death to the fighting ring in the middle of the arena of life and death. This was a giant cage surrounded by a sturdy cage. Its purpose was to prevent the battle in the arena from injuring the dignitaries in the spectator stands. Kong Shinmu was brought into this huge cage, just like an animal for people to admire. Today, the one who came to the life and death arena is the future son-in-law of the Shi family, brother Kong Shinmu. His current cultivation is at the first level of the God martial arts realm, and his opponent is the bolder violent bear who has won 13 battles in a row, Brother 2. This violent rock bear was called Brother Tuesday. In the life and death arena, every demonic beast had a similar code name. This was because such a code name could arouse the emotions of the audience and make them crazily throw money at it. When the manager of the life and death arena introduced Kong Shinmu and his opponent, the gigantic rock bear, the thousands of people in the spectator stand started shouting wildly. Today's battle was just too exciting. It was actually the rumored son-in-law of the Shi clan, Kong Shinmu. Recently, the news of the Shi clan's prospective son-in-law had already spread throughout the entire dragon prison city. Even ordinary warriors who had not awakened to become dragon warriors knew of Kong Shinmu's name. They also knew that Kong Shinmu had defeated the Xia clan's Xia Tianhan in a duel. Moreover, the recent clan martial competition was in full swing. Yesterday, the news of Kong Shinmu defeating Meng Tianqing had just spread, causing everyone to be extremely amazed. However, the scale of the clan martial competition was still too small for the entire dragon prison city. The news did not spread that fast. Most of the people in the city did not know that Jiang Shenwu had defeated Zhang Shijian today. Therefore, they had some estimates of Kong Shinmu's strength. Wasn't he just the inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood essence at the first level of the divine martial realm? But it's strange. This kid is about to become the son-in-law of the Shi clan. Why would he come to the life and death arena to court death because of a lack of money? He might not necessarily be courting death. It's said that this kid often creates miracles. He might even be able to kill that bolder violent bear today. You think Brother 2 will lose to him? Lose to a kid who is only at the first level of the divine martial realm? Don't joke around, that's impossible. That's right, this young master knows Brother 2's strength. No matter how strong this Kong Shinmu is, he won't be a match for Brother Tuesday. Everyone was discussing animatedly. The majority of them did not believe that Kong Shinmu would be a match for the bolder violent bear, Brother 2. The introduction of Kong Shinmu as the son-in-law of the dragon prison city caused Shi Yueying, who was in the spectator stands, to blush slightly. She had never thought that this matter would spread so quickly, and that the entire city would already know about it. But in reality, this matter was completely false. Holy Dragon Shi Tao had such a plan, but he wasn't sure. As for Jiang Shenwu and Shi Yueying, they didn't take this matter to heart. Many a time, such things happened naturally, and there was no need to be so conflicted. Obviously, the life and death arena had used this matter as the explosive point of this battle. This news would obviously arouse the enthusiasm of the spectators, making them throw money, and throw money again. It's actually a bolder violent bear. Can Kong Shinmu defeat it? A bolder violent bear at the second level of the Sky Demon Realm has already killed 13 powerful dragon warriors. Its strength is probably even more terrifying than Zhang Shijian. Jiang Yuaning could not help but feel worried. Don't worry, since he chose the bolder violent bear as his opponent, he will definitely be able to defeat it. Shi Yueying was more confident in Jiang Shenwu, but in fact, she was also a little perturbed in her heart. It was difficult for her to remain calm. After all, this was the life and death arena. Every year, countless dragon martial artists died in the life and death arena. Even Shi Yueying herself did not believe that Kong Shinmu could defeat the bolder violent bear. But from the bolder violent bear, she seemed to be able to see Kong Shinmu's goal, and that was to use the devouring power to deal with the Meng clan's strongest, Meng Chou. Whatever power Kong Shinmu devours, he seems to be more familiar with that power and has a stronger resistance to it. However, he actually set his sights on Meng Chou. This is the genius dragon warrior who is very likely to obtain first place in this year's clan martial competition. Shi Yueying was shocked. She never thought that Kong Shinmu would actually have such a high goal. He wanted to obtain first place in this year's clan martial competition. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen the bolder violent bear as his opponent. Right now, the preliminary round of the 5th day of the clan martial competition was still continuing, but Kong Shinmu was already preparing for the semi-finals and finals. It could be seen that Kong Shinmu was very ambitious. However, The only one who vaguely knew that Kong Shinmu was able to devour his opponent's power and increase his resistance to it was Xueqi. Chapter 3947. You're only at the first level of the divine martial realm, yet you want to take first place in the clan martial competition. Kong Shinmu, you really surprised me. Xueqi's eyes were filled with splendor. Every time she thought that she had seen through Kong Shinmu, she found that Kong Shinmu would soon display a side that she could not imagine. Now, in the life and death arena, many of the high officials and nobles thought that Kong Shinmu was looking for trouble and wanted to train his strength. Therefore, he chose the second level of the Sky Demon Realm as his opponent. They all thought that he would die. However, no one would have thought that Kong Shinmu's target was actually Meng Cho, who was at the fourth level of the Divine Martial Realm, the strongest genius of the clan martial competition. In the midst of the hubbub of voices, Kong Shinmu concentrated on watching the giant rock bear being released. From a passageway, it violently came to the life and death arena. Soon, both sides were in a cage. It was a huge brown bear demon beast that was 20 zhang tall. In front of humans, it was like a small mountain. When it appeared in front of Kong Shinmu, it completely covered the light of the setting sun in front of him. Roar! The giant rock bear, Tu Gu, roared and directly pounced towards the place where Kong Shinmu was. It did not put this tiny human in its eyes at all. Hua! Seeing this, everyone in the spectator stand was shocked. This violent boulder bear was so ferocious. It couldn't have killed that kid in an instant, right? However, this worry was completely unnecessary. Just as the giant rock bear pounced towards Kong Shinmu instantly transformed into a dragon. 100 zhang long black dragons suddenly appeared in the arena. After a dragon roar, he roared and rushed towards the giant rock bear. The giant rock bear's fighting style was close combat. Even if it was 20 zhang tall, it would not be at a disadvantage when fighting against a 100 zhang long dragon martial artist. With a sudden leap of his feet, his mountain-like body leaped up as fast as the wind. In an instant, he grabbed Kong Shinmu's dragon tail with both hands and pulled with his brown bear paws. The terrifying force almost tore Kong Shinmu's dragon tail apart, but the purple magic crystal covered his dragon tail, forcibly resisting the other party's tremendous tearing force. Phantom Dragon Tooth Transformation. Kong Shinmu turned around and unleashed his devouring power. Countless shadow dragon teeth rained down on the violent boulder bear's body. However, this dragon martial skill didn't cause any damage to the violent boulder bear. The opponent's defense was actually this terrifying. Kong Shinmu was a little surprised, but he didn't panic. The heavenly sage halberd's golden light appeared on his black dragon body, and he abruptly brought the violent rock bear up into the sky. The violent boulder bear's huge body was suspended in midair. Suddenly, it roared angrily, and the power of giant rocks finally burst out. From its body, huge rocks continuously condensed and smashed towards Kong Shinmu's body. Each of these rocks was like a small mountain. After the huge force smashed down, Kong Shinmu would be closer to the ground. It was impossible for him to fly higher. Soon, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was smashed to the ground. Two huge creatures fell with a loud bang, almost causing the entire life and death arena to shake. Good. The thousands of guests in the spectator stand immediately became excited when they saw this. Although they hadn't awakened as dragon martial artists, they could still see some clues about the battle between dragon martial artists and demonic beasts. The current situation was very obvious that both sides were evenly matched. This was the kind of battle they loved to watch the most. If it was a one-sided battle, it would be too boring and not worth watching. I didn't expect the prospective son-in-law of the Shi clan to have some skills. To be able to withstand Brother Tu's attack, this divine dragon's body is much tougher than some of the dragon martial artists from before. That's right, there are some purple magic crystals covering the surface of his divine dragon body. It seems to be some kind of body-refining dragon martial skill. There aren't many people who cultivate this kind of dragon martial skill. That's right. In the past, the dragon martial artists who fought against Brother Tu all used their defensive dragon martial skills to block his attacks. In the end, their defense couldn't withstand it, causing their divine dragon body to be torn into two and die an extremely miserable death. From the looks of it, this kid still has a chance of winning. Many of the spectators were discussing. Even though the battle was extremely intense, it was just a spectator's battle to them. It didn't matter who won or lost. But now, There were already people in the spectator stands who had set up a bet. Come on, place your bets. Those who bet on Brother Two's victory, 3-1, and those who bet on Kong Shinmu's victory, 1-3. Many people went up to participate in the bet. Judging from the odds, they probably thought that the probability of Kong Shinmu winning was only 1/3. That was normal. Although Kong Shinmu's reputation as the prospective son-in-law of the Shi clan was very frightening, Brother Two was a frequent guest in the life and death arena. It was not an exaggeration to call him a star, and he had many loyal fans. Many spectators were very optimistic about this giant rock bear, thinking that it would not lose to a kid who was only at the first level of the divine martial realm. Humph, they are looking down on me. I have 50,000 dragon coins on me. I bet all of them on Kong Shinmu winning. Zhang Yuaning snorted coldly. She couldn't stand the behavior of this group of people, so she directly threw out 50,000 dragon coins. This was almost all of her assets, which she had saved up until now. It could be seen that she trusted Kong Shinmu very much. Most importantly, she didn't want to see Kong Shinmu lose, so she bet on Kong Shinmu winning, hoping that Kong Shinmu could survive this battle. Xueqi thought about it and also bet 100,000 dragon coins on Kong Shinmu winning. Born in the Shi clan, she certainly had more assets than Zhang Yuaning, but not by much. She could only take out 100,000 dragon coins. The two of them had 150,000 dragon coins in total. If Kong Shinmu died in the hands of the giant rock bear, then there would be no money left. But if Kong Shinmu could win, they could get 450,000 dragon coins, which was a net profit of 300,000 dragon coins. The odds could be said to be a big profit. If it weren't for the fact that Xueqi only had 100,000 dragon coins on her, she would definitely bet more on Kong Shinmu winning. But no matter what, the 150,000 dragon coins almost didn't have much impact on the betting pool. After all the people present were rich. Even if they weren't dragon warriors, they could still get a lot of dragon coins by running a chamber of commerce and doing business. Soon, the betting pool expanded to the scale of tens of millions of dragon coins. Some dignitaries had already begun to throw money into the life and death arena. These dragon coins all fell outside the arena. After the battle, they would be collected by the life and death arena, and half of them would be given to the dragon warrior who won. Chapter 3948. Dragon Prison City, Life and Death Arena. Thousands of dignitaries in the spectator stands were extremely excited as they watched the fierce battle between the Black Heavenly Dragon and the Boulder Grizzly Bear. Their faces were flushed with excitement. In the arena, Kong Shinmu was in a state of intense battle. The Boulder Grizzly Bear was very strong. The power of the boulders in its body burst out and condensed into sharp boulders, which swept towards Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. Fortunately, the demonic crystal body refining dragon martial technique constantly condensed purple demonic crystals on the surface of Kong Shinmu's dragon body, which had a strong defense. Especially after Kong Shinmu stepped into the divine martial realm, his strength in all aspects had doubled, and he could not be mentioned in the same breath as before. Shadow Dragon Fong Transformation. Kong Shinmu constantly activated this grade 3 dragon martial technique. Countless shadow dragon fangs fell on the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body, but they could not cause any damage. Not only was the Boulder Grizzly Bear's skin thick, but it also condensed a layer of boulder defensive barrier on the surface of its body. This barrier was extremely thick. In the past, when the 13 dragon martial artists challenged the Boulder Grizzly Bear, it was because this barrier was too strong that they could not kill the Boulder Grizzly Bear. In the end, they died in the life and death arena. However, Kong Shinmu discovered that he had another way to deal with this layer of boulder defensive barrier. The devouring power rolled over and formed a layer of pitch-black power that covered the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body. It began to devour the boulder power that covered the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body. Although the devouring speed was not fast, Kong Shinmu could feel that the boulder power that was transmitted back to his body by the devouring power was converted into his own strength and made his resistance against the boulder power stronger. The Boulder Grizzly Bear's forte is defense. As long as it is not killed, it can eventually tear its opponent to pieces. But my advantage is also in defense. Kong Shinmu now discovered that the sharp rocks formed by the Boulder Grizzly Bear's boulder power could not kill him at all. Even at its strongest, it could only destroy the purple demonic crystal on the surface of his divine dragon body, but it could not harm his divine dragon body. Furthermore, he still had the Sky Sage halberd that he hadn't used yet. In the next moment, the golden heavenly saint halberd suddenly bloomed with light, condensing into a long golden halberd, accompanied by the shadow dragon teeth that rained down on the boulder grizzly bear's body. Both sides fought in close combat on the arena. Finally, blood splattered from both sides. When Kong Shinmu attacked, his opponent finally found an opportunity. Many wounds appeared on the body of the Black Divine Dragon, but more importantly, the giant rock bear's defense was finally broken by Kong Shinmu's attack. Kong Shinmu's devouring power swallowed a part of the Boulder Force defensive barrier covering his body, and then the Heavenly Saint Halberd and Shadow Dragon Tooth transformation attacked together, finally leaving several wounds on his opponent's body. Even though it was only a small cut, it was enough for Kong Shinmu. The devouring power quickly condensed and surged into the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body, beginning to devour the Boulder Force in its body. The tough skin of the Boulder Grizzly Bear was broken, and the devouring power swept into its body, like a fish swimming in water, surging into the depths of its opponent's body at the fastest speed. But at this time, the Boulder Grizzly Bear suddenly roared, finally using the talent of a sky demon. On the surface of the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body, a layer of Boulder Force defensive barrier appeared again, covering the wounds that were just made. Then, the injuries it suffered were constantly being replenished by the Boulder Force. It turns out to be a fast recovery method. Kong Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. In the spectator stands, near the gambling house, some people were dejected. These people had bet on Kong Shinmu to win. When they saw that the Boulder Grizzly Bear was injured, they had a good hunch. They thought that Kong Shinmu would take advantage of the situation to chase and kill the Boulder Grizzly Bear. They did not expect that the Boulder Grizzly Bear would use its talent to heal all its injuries, and the defensive barrier would appear again. At this time, most of the dignitaries in the spectator stands felt that Kong Shinmu would not be able to defeat this Boulder Grizzly Bear. The Boulder Grizzly Bear's defense was too powerful. It was almost impossible for a dragon martial artist of the same realm to kill it, especially when Kong Shinmu's cultivation was one realm lower than the Boulder Grizzly Bear. He was only in the first realm of the God Martial Arts realm. If he was in the second realm of the God Martial Arts realm, many people would have thought highly of him. After all, he had a dragon-level dragon weapon, which could increase his combat power by a lot. Shi Yueying and Jiang Yuaning clenched their hands and looked nervously at the arena. They were very concerned about Kong Shinmu. When the Boulder Grizzly Bear's injuries healed, they were almost scared out of their wits. If this Boulder Grizzly Bear kept using this talent, wouldn't it be invincible? Unless he could kill this Boulder Grizzly Bear in one go, it would be impossible to kill this Sky Demon Second Realm Boulder Grizzly Bear. But no one knew that a part of Kong Shinmu's devouring power remained in the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body and began to devour its flesh and life essence. Although Kong Shinmu could not connect with this part of the devouring power, causing the devouring speed to be somewhat slow, as long as he could continue, the Boulder Grizzly Bear would soon lose all its strength and fall to the ground dead. Of course, Kong Shinmu had to ensure that the Boulder Grizzly Bear could not kill him before that happened. Halberd of Heavenly Saint. Magic Crystal. A golden light shrouded Kong Shinmu's entire black dragon body. The Halberd of Heavenly Saint turned into a defensive light that enveloped his entire body. At the same time, purple magic crystals constantly appeared on the surface of his body, blocking all the attacks from the Boulder Grizzly Bear. With these two defenses used at the same time, the Boulder Grizzly Bear could do nothing to Kong Shinmu. On the other hand, Kong Shinmu's devouring power was stirring up a storm in the Boulder Grizzly Bear's body, constantly devouring its flesh and blood essence, causing its strength to become weaker and weaker. At the same time, Kong Shinmu's resistance to the Boulder Grizzly Bear's power also became stronger and stronger. Gradually, Kong Shinmu only needed to rely on the magic crystals to resist the Boulder Grizzly Bear's attacks. The Boulder Grizzly Bear's strength was getting weaker and weaker. This was seen by the butler of the life and death arena, which made him a little surprised. This Boulder Grizzly Bear's usual combat strength couldn't be so weak. If it continued to fight, it would not weaken for at least 2 hours. What was going on now? Why was its combat strength weakened for a short period of time? Could it be that when Kong Shinmu was injured, he did something else to the Boulder Grizzly Bear? Of course, the butler did not know the characteristics and horror of the devouring power. Chapter 39-49. On the combat stage of the life and death arena, the violent rock bear was getting weaker and weaker. Gradually, it could not even launch a decent attack. Moreover, the huge rock barrier covering its body was getting weaker and weaker. Jiang Shenwu turned around, and the heavenly saint's halberd turned into countless golden halberds. Together with the shadow dragon Fong, all of them slammed down on the boulder grizzly bear. This time, the boulder grizzly bear's body was finally blasted open with a massive wound. Obviously, after the violent rock bear's flesh and blood essence was devoured, it no longer had the ability to resist Kong Shinmu's attack. At this moment, its defense was completely broken, and its body was drenched in blood. This scene was seen by many of the dignitaries in the spectator stands, and they were shocked for a moment. They originally thought that Kong Shinmu would be killed by the violent rock bear very soon. After all, he could not even break the violent rock bear's defense. But they did not expect that in the blink of an eye, Kong Shinmu would be able to seriously injure the violent rock bear. The most important point was that the violent boulder bear had suddenly become weak. Most of the nobles could see this, but they couldn't guess what was going on. This is too strange. Brother Tu was so fierce just now. Why did he suddenly become so weak? I don't know. This Kong Shinmu's talent is rumored to be the power of devouring. Could it be that this kind of power can make a demon beast weak? Could it be that the life and death arena did this on purpose to let Kong Shinmu kill Brother Tu and then create a scene? The life and death arena is an old name in Dragon Prison City. It has a deep relationship with all the major residences. It is impossible for them to specially create a scene for the Shi clan residents. That's strange. Then, the problem can only be this kid's talent. Everyone was discussing. The dignitaries who were a little pessimistic at first were now a little excited. These people had bet on Kong Shinmu to win. They originally thought that their money would be wasted, but they did not expect that Kong Shinmu would be able to turn defeat into victory. The odds of 3 times meant that if they won the bet, they would be able to obtain extremely generous returns. In particular, some rich businessmen had actually bet millions on Kong Shinmu's victory. Now that they could win tens of millions of yuan, they were beaming with joy. In comparison, there were even more people who had bet on Kong Shinmu losing to the boulder violent bear. At this time, some of them were crying. In the entire life and death arena, a total of tens of millions of yuan had been lost to the dignitaries who had bet on Kong Shinmu's victory. Jiang Yuaning and Shi Yueying also smiled at this moment. The 2 girls weren't doing this for the hundreds of thousands of dragon coins they had bet on. Instead, they were relieved to see that Kong Shinmu had finally won. As long as Kong Shinmu wasn't in any danger, it would be great. Moreover, Shi Yueying had seen some clues in this round. Kong Shinmu definitely didn't come to the life and death arena just to practice. He had a deeper purpose. In the life and death arena, Kong Shinmu, who had transformed into a black dragon, had entangled the boulder violent bear. The pitch-black devouring power had completely enveloped the boulder violent bear, making it unable to move. Soon, Kong Shinmu had devoured more than half of the boulder violent bear's boulder violent bear, which had improved his resistance to the boulder violent bear to a terrifying degree. However, at this level, it was still not enough for Kong Shinmu to fight Meng Chou of the Meng family alone. Meng Chou was an inheritor of the heavenly dragon essence blood at the 4th level of the god martial arts realm. If he wanted to defeat him, he had to devour more boulder violent bear to be able to resist his attacks and find an opportunity during his attacks. Otherwise, based on Kong Shinmu's current defensive ability, he might not be able to resist 2 moves from his opponent and would die in the martial arts arena. I have to continue devouring the boulder violent bear, Kong Shinmu thought to himself. However, there was no other boulder violent bear in the life and death arena, and there were no other demonic beasts with boulder violent bear. He could only take a step back and devour other boulder violent bear. The pitch-black devouring power completely dissipated on the spot. Everyone saw that the boulder violent bear called Brother Tu had died in the life and death arena. Kong Shinmu was in high spirits as he stepped on the boulder violent bear's head. Kong Shinmu wins, the administrator of the life and death arena immediately announced. At the same time, his tone was filled with disbelief and surprise. Obviously, even he did not expect that Kong Shinmu could really defeat the boulder violent bear. He had originally planned to offend the Shi clan, so it was impossible for him to save Kong Shinmu. After all, the life and death arena had its own rules. If he made an exception this time, no one would come to the life and death arena in the future. In any case, the life and death arena was very powerful. It was not something that a mere Shi clan residents could shake. Moreover, Kong Shinmu was only the sacred dragon Shi Tao's prospective son-in-law. He was not a true member of the Shi clan residence yet. Even if Kong Shinmu died here, the sacred dragon Shi Tao would not make a big fuss over him. Most importantly, challenging the rules of the life and death arena was to provoke the residences of all the high-ranking officials, nobles, and dragon martial artists in the entire dragon prison city. Even the Shi clan residents could not do such a thing. Jiang Shenwu did not have such great influence. Then, the life and death arena began to count the dragon coins that the guests had thrown around the life and death arena. They planned to give a portion of it to Kong Shinmu and pay him the 1 million dragon coins that they had agreed on beforehand. Then, in the spectator stands, the bet that someone had just opened also began to be settled. Jiang Yuaning directly received 150,000 dragon coins, earning a net profit of 100,000, while Shi Yueying received 300,000 dragon coins, earning 200,000. Even to Shi Yueying, this could be considered a very large sum of wealth. After all, normally, the Shi clan wouldn't give her too much pocket money. If she really needed to use something precious, the holy dragon Shi Tao would directly buy it for them. There was no need for her to buy it herself. Of course, compared to earning money, the two girls were more willing to see Kong Shinmu defeat the giant rock bear and survive the life and death arena. Their eyes were brimming with joy as they looked at Kong Shinmu, who was in the arena, as if he was an undefeatable war god of the dragon warrior. The devouring power is too powerful. Could it be that he really wants to defeat the strongest person in the clan martial competition, Meng Chou? Shi Yueying thought to himself. After receiving the 300,000 dragon coins, she watched as Kong Shinmu followed the steward of the life and death arena back into the life and death arena and left the arena. Will he continue to challenge? Many high-ranking officials and nobles had this question in their hearts. Generally speaking, once a dragon warrior succeeded in the life and death arena, most of them would not choose to continue challenging. After all, the danger was too high. If one succeeded in a challenge, they would be able to obtain a large sum of money. For a dragon warrior who lacked money, it would be able to solve their urgent needs. Chapter 3950. Soon, Kong Shinmu returned to the arena of life and death with the administrator. The administrator looked excited. I have good news for everyone. Brother Kong Shinmu plans to continue challenging a ferocious sky demon in our arena of life and death. This sky demon is definitely not weaker than the Brother 2 from before. It might even be stronger. The officials and dignitaries were excited when they heard that. There were too few dragon warriors who challenged demonic beasts in the arena of life and death. Needless to say, it had been a few days since a dragon warrior successfully killed a ferocious demonic beast. Kong Shinmu had just made a start and everyone was already excited. Now, they heard that he was going to continue fighting. The news was shocking. However, Shi Yueying and Jiang Yuaning found it hard to understand Kong Shinmu's choice. No way. He's going to continue challenging? Looks like it. I wonder what he's up to. The two girls looked at each other. They never expected Kong Shinmu to make such a decision. Every battle in the arena of life and death would limit the challenger's cultivation level. Therefore, every battle was an extremely dangerous life and death battle. Furthermore, the administrator had already said that the second demonic beast was even stronger than the boulder raging bear. Everyone raised their heads in anticipation, wanting to know who Jiang Shenwu's opponent would be. All right, I won't keep everyone in suspense. Brother Kong Shinmu's second sky demon opponent is a starry sky flame wolf. The administrator of the arena of life and death immediately announced the news. The moment the news came out, the entire arena was in an uproar. It was a starry sky flame wolf. This was the signature of the arena of life and death. It was a demonic beast leader at the 3rd level of the sky demon. It was extremely ferocious and terrifying. It had the power of starry sky and flames. It had already cruelly killed 42 dragon warriors who challenged it. Just its cultivation level alone was much stronger than the boulder raging bear. Not to mention the fact that it had 2 powers. When it alternated in battle, it was enough to make one despair. If the boulder raging bear were to fight against the starry sky flame wolf, the one who would die would definitely be the boulder raging bear. And it would be even more miserable and ugly than when it was killed by Kong Shinmu in the arena of life and death. The attacks of the starry sky flame wolf were extremely ferocious, and its speed was extremely terrifying. In the past, a portion of the 42 dragon martial artists that had died in its hands had been killed by it at lightning speed. The entire battle did not last more than 10 breaths of time. Even those powerful dragon warriors who could temporarily block the attack of the starry sky flame wolf would not be able to withstand the successive bombardment of the two types of energy. In the end, they would die with grievances. This is an extremely aggressive sky fae. Furthermore, it's a tier 3 fae. It's very difficult for me. I martial clan but and earth clan demand clan and clan I and dragon and demon and earth demon Sean and clan and clan and demon and Kong Shinmu was very clear about his current strength, so the opponent he chose was in line with his expectations. Especially the strongest warrior of the Zong tribe, Zong Feng. He had the talent of the spiritual fire and had the strength to fight against Meng Chou. If Meng Chou was not careful, he might be defeated by Zong Feng. To Kong Shinmu, if he wanted to obtain first place in the entire clan martial competition, he could not ignore these two genius dragon warriors. Other than Meng Chou's giant rock power, Zong Feng's spiritual firepower also had to be paid attention to. In addition, there was also a genius dragon warrior from the Ji tribe called Ji Yuan. He controlled the power of the stars. To Kong Shinmu, he was a huge threat. Therefore, devouring the starry sky flame wolf's starry sky power was also useful to him. The opponent's flame power is unable to kill me in an instant. As long as I can block the opponent's starry sky power, it will be fine. Kong Shinmu pondered in his heart. He had already thought about the tactics he would use when he went on stage. When the starry sky flame wolf appeared, the spectator stand suddenly burst into a wave of applause. In the cage of the life and death arena, a fierce wolf shrouded in light blue flames appeared. Its body was more than 300 feet long. Compared to humans, it was definitely a huge monster. It was even bigger than many people's houses. Its fangs were even bigger than a person. In the life and death arena, the corpse of the giant rock violent bear had already been disposed of. Kong Shinmu stood in the life and death arena, staring coldly at the huge light blue fierce wolf. Place your bets, place your bets, place your bets, the odds are 1 to 5. In the spectator stands, the gambling started once again. However, the odds this time were a bit higher than before. Because it was obvious that the starry sky flame wolf's strength was even more terrifying than the giant rock violent bears, and Kong Shinmu only had the strength of the first level of the divine martial realm. Just now, it was already so difficult for him to deal with the giant rock violent bear. Now, it was very likely that he would be killed by the fierce starry sky flame wolf. Moreover, in the minds of many people, this was very likely. The high-ranking officials and dignitaries who had bet on Kong Shinmu defeating the giant rock violent bear and won a lot of dragon coins started to hesitate. Some of them changed their bets to the option that Kong Shinmu would die. Although if Kong Shinmu won, they could earn 500,000 dragon coins with 100,000 dragon coins. The possibility was so low that they didn't dare to take the risk. Although betting on the option that Kong Shinmu would die would only earn 1/5 of the dragon coins, it was still better than losing. I bet 150,000 dragon coins. I bet 300,000 dragon coins. Jiang Yuaning and Shi Yueying bet on the option that Kong Shinmu would win without hesitation. If Kong Shinmu won, they would earn 750,000 dragon coins and 1,500,000 dragon coins respectively. This amount of dragon coins was quite rare for Jiang Yuaning. Her entire family's annual consumption was only tens of thousands of dragon coins. Now, she could actually earn 750,000 dragon coins in one go. To her, this was probably the largest amount of dragon coins she had ever seen. Of course, if Kong Shinmu was defeated, she and Shi Yueying would lose all their dragon coins. They would have to return all the dragon coins that they had just won. However, to the two women, if Kong Shinmu died in the life and death arena, these dragon coins would be useless. They might as well use them to bet on Kong Shinmu and cheer him on. In the end, almost no one bet on Kong Shinmu winning, because the chances of him winning were too low. The starry sky flame wolf's fighting strength was too strong. It was a frequent visitor to the life and death arena. There was once an inheritor of the heavenly dragon essence blood at the 3rd tier of the divine martial arts realm, but he couldn't last more than half an hour against the starry sky flame wolf. He was completely torn to pieces. Chapter 3951. In the life and death arena, countless people were paying attention to Kong Shinmu. It was also at this time that many dragon warriors came over after hearing the news. 4 dragon martial artists. There was basically nothing good in a place like the life and death arena. Even if dragon martial artists occasionally came to watch the battles, It was only to gain some experience in fighting with demon beasts. It was impossible for them to come here for enjoyment. However, many dragon warriors had heard that Kong Shinmu had actually come to the life and death arena to challenge some very strong and ferocious demonic beasts. As a result, they all came to the life and death arena, preparing to see how Kong Shinmu's battle would turn out. To these dragon warriors, they were originally very concerned about Kong Shinmu's performance in the clan martial competition. Especially today, on the 5th day of the clan martial competition, Kong Shinmu had actually defeated Zhang Shijian, who was originally very popular. This caused them to be extremely shocked. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had already become a hot figure in the dragon prison city. At least, after the end of the preliminaries of the Tian clan martial competition, no one was more popular than him. These dragon warriors all came to the life and death arena. Originally, there were only 1,000 people in the spectator stands, but before the battle between Kong Shinmu and the Starry Sky Flame Wolf began, more and more people came to watch the battle. Very quickly, it reached 2,000, even 3,000, and the number of people was still increasing. This made the life and death arena overjoyed. With so many people coming to watch the battle, they had earned a lot of money just from the tickets alone. Today, Kong Shinmu had come to challenge the Sky Demon Beast, which was truly auspicious for the life and death arena, causing their business to flourish. As the number of people watching the battle increased, the scale of the bet also continued to expand. Now the preliminaries of the clan martial competition had ended, and many people from the Jiang clan had come to the life and death arena. Among them was Jiang Fengqing, who had been ridiculing Kong Shinmu. Jiang Fengqing came to the life and death arena, and after understanding the situation, she directly bet 200,000 on the bet. However, unlike Shi Yueying and Jiang Yuaning, Jiang Fengqing bet that Kong Shinmu would lose. She didn't believe that Kong Shinmu could win. After all, the odds were 1-5. What else was there for her to consider? The possibility of Kong Shinmu defeating the Starry Sky Flame Wolf was simply too small. Even though Kong Shinmu had defeated Zhang Shijian was only a dragon warrior at the 2nd level of the divine martial realm. Compared to the Starry Sky Flame Wolf at the 3rd level of the Sky Demon realm, he was still quite lacking. If they really fought, Zhang Shijian was definitely not a match for the Starry Sky Flame Wolf. Therefore, the new dragon martial artists audience basically didn't think that Kong Shinmu would win. Until a big shot arrived. Holy Dragon Shi Tao led a group of Shi clan elders and dragon warriors to the arena of life and death. After understanding the situation, he directly bet 10 million on Kong Shinmu's victory. This was a huge investment. For Holy Dragon Shi Tao, 10 million was not a big investment. However, betting on Kong Shinmu clearly showed his trust in Kong Shinmu. If Kong Shinmu dies at the hands of the Starry Sky Flame Wolf, what's the harm in throwing away this 10 million? Holy Dragon Shi Tao smiled faintly and sat down on the VIP seat. He saw Shi Yueying and Jiang Yuaning sitting together, but he didn't go to them because there was no need. Today's protagonist was Kong Shinmu. In the arena, Kong Shinmu's every move affected the hearts of thousands of important figures in Dragon Prison City. As Holy Dragon Shi Tao arrived, so did Holy Dragon Xia Yan. He directly threw 10 million on the bet that Kong Shinmu would lose. With a cold snort, he sat down not far from Holy Dragon Shi Tao. Clan Master, you threw away 10 million too casually. Sigh. When the Shi clan elders behind Holy Dragon Shi Tao saw this, they immediately became worried. 10 million dragon coins was nothing to Holy Dragon Shi Tao, but if it was given to the others in the Shi clan residence, it would still be a large sum that would make them jealous. What, you don't believe in this clan master's judgment? Holy Dragon Shi Tao's face turned stiff. He was very dissatisfied with the crowd's reaction. He didn't allow these people to object to the decision he made. Furthermore, he didn't think that Kong Shinmu would lose. If there was anyone present who had the most confidence in Kong Shinmu, it was undoubtedly Holy Dragon Shi Tao. Even Shi Yueying was filled with worry for Kong Shinmu's battle. She wasn't as calm as Holy Dragon Shi Tao. Soon, the genius dragon warriors from the Meng, Ji and Zong clans who were participating in the clan martial competition arrived at the arena of life and death. Of course, there weren't many people who came. After all, they had to pay 10,000 tickets to enter the arena of life and death. It was enough to send a few representatives over. There was no need for all of them to come in. In any case, they weren't particularly optimistic about Kong Shinmu. They all guessed that Kong Xinmu would most likely die in the arena of life and death. Zhang Shijian, Meng Tianqing and the others all placed their bets on the bet. They all placed hundreds of thousands of bets on the option of Kong Xinmu losing and being killed. Then, they stared coldly at Kong Xinmu in the arena. Even if they were to fight against that starry sky flame wolf, they would definitely die at its hands. There was no chance of winning. If they could defeat this starry sky flame wolf, they would at least be able to reach the top 10 of the clan martial competition. This was not in line with everyone's evaluation of Kong Xinmu. Even if Kong Xinmu defeated Meng Tianqing and Zhang Shijian, he was still a long way from the top 10 of the clan martial competition. He was at least one cultivation realm away. The audience arrived. Kong Xinmu never thought that there would actually be so many people coming to the arena of life and death to watch him challenge the Sky Demon. This undoubtedly made his plan to keep a low profile go up in smoke. However, no matter how many people were watching, it didn't affect him in the slightest. In any case, it was impossible for him to expose the fact that he could devour the divine dragon's blood essence to raise the grade of his blood essence in a normal battle. As for his other characteristics, even if they were to be slightly exposed, it wouldn't matter much. At most, it would allow others to make more preparations when facing him. Of course, these preparations were completely futile. As long as the divine dragon's blood essence could be raised through devouring, Kong Xinmu didn't care about the other characteristics being exposed. In the arena of life and death, the number of spectators increased, and the scale of the bet grew larger and larger. In this kind of situation, many people wanted to bet 1 or 2 times. To many people, if they could pick up money for free, it would be a waste not to earn it. But unfortunately, these people were destined to be disappointed. This was because, since Kong Xinmu had chosen the starry sky flame wolf as his opponent this time, he naturally had a plan in mind. Although he didn't have a good understanding of the starry sky flame wolf's specific strength, he was confident that he could kill his opponent. After comparing the strength of many opponents, he came to the conclusion that with the strength of the starry sky flame wolf, it was impossible for it to instantly kill him. Chapter 3952. The scale of the bet had even reached hundreds of millions of dragon coins. To Kong Xinmu, none of this mattered. No matter how the situation in the spectator stands developed, there was only one thing he needed to do, and that was to defeat the starry sky flame wolf. He had been prepared for a long time. However, in order to wait for more spectators to enter the life and death arena, the starry sky flame wolf wasn't in a hurry to release the starry sky flame wolf into the cage of the life and death arena. The raging starry sky's flame wolf's eyes flickered with a pale blue flame as it stared at Zhang Xinwu, who was in the cage of the life and death arena. An ominous glint appeared in its eyes, because it was very clear that Zhang Xinwu was its opponent this time. As long as it defeated this martial dragon brat, it would be able to return to the cage and continue to enjoy its delicious meal. Divine beasts had intelligence. However, now that it had been captured and brought to the arena of life and death, the only fate left for it was to fight and fight until it was killed by a certain dragon warrior. Before that, all it could do was to continuously kill and then enjoy the delicious meat. This was also the only thing it could enjoy right now. If it didn't eat well, its strength would weaken and it would lose most of its value to the life and death arena. In that case, it wouldn't be far from death. When the entire spectator stands of the life and death arena were filled with 4,000 to 5,000 people, the butler of the life and death arena shouted, under the watchful eyes of the public, the battle between Brother Kong Xinmu and the starry sky flame wolf will now begin. Under the crowd's watchful eyes, after the starry sky flame wolf was released, it instantly charged towards Kong Xinmu. Its speed was as fast as lightning and it shot towards Kong Xinmu like a light blue stream of light. Its speed was several times faster than the violent boulder bear just now. It was simply like a meteor falling from the sky. In an instant, it appeared in front of Kong Xinmu. In the next moment, the pitch-black body of the divine dragon suddenly appeared in the cage of the life and death arena. The surface of the pitch-black body of the divine dragon was covered in layers of purple demonic crystals. Then it was buried in a fierce flame. Of course, the starry sky flame wolf didn't know that Kong Xinmu had a stronger resistance to the power of fire. It directly used the power of fire to envelop Kong Xinmu's entire divine dragon body. But in the next moment, the purple magical crystal on Zhang Xinwu's body suddenly became even more resplendent. There was even a hint of deep color in the purple light. In the next moment, of the purple demonic crystals on Kong Xinmu's body, there was of a deep color. Zhang Xinwu was shocked. He didn't expect that such a change would occur at this time, causing his overall defensive ability to rise to another level. After the magic crystal transformed into a dragon, the purple mana crystal on the surface of the divine dragon's body shone with a deep luster. All attacks that landed on the divine dragon's body seemed to be absorbed and disappeared without a trace. There seemed to be a deep universe in every demonic crystal that could absorb extremely strong power. The power of flames of the starry sky flame wolf was completely absorbed by Kong Shinmu's purple demonic crystals. In the end, when it couldn't take it anymore, the purple demonic crystals exploded and turned into pure energy that was devoured by Kong Shinmu's devouring power. This is a terrifying cycle. Kong Shinmu was even more surprised. After the purple demonic crystals absorbed enough energy and exploded, the pure energy was devoured and could be turned into purple demonic crystals again for defense. This made Kong Shinmu's defense even more impregnable. Unless the opponent's strength could crush him or kill him in one hit, he was completely immortal. Magical crystal, this body-refining dragon martial skill is indeed very suitable for me. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Then, his entire body of divine dragon rushed out of the blazing flames. He was wearing a deep purple demonic crystal armor and looked like a deep cosmic troll. Countless shadow dragon fangs burst out and instantly pierced towards the starry sky flame wolf. The transformation of the demonic crystal happened in an instant. It didn't give the starry sky flame wolf any time to react. Kong Shinmu wrapped around the starry sky flame wolf, and then the shadow dragon fangs poured down. The starry sky flame wolf didn't expect that its power of flames attack didn't seem to have any effect on Kong Shinmu. It immediately roared angrily, and the flames on its body surged, mixed with the dazzling light of the starry sky, and shot towards Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. Star mark blazing burst. Kong Shinmu didn't have any time to react. The center of his divine dragon body was instantly blasted by the opponent. Even the purple demonic crystals couldn't withstand the opponent's terrifying attack. The entire black dragon body was blasted into two by the power of the starry sky and the power of flames. Wah! Everyone in the spectator seats gasped when they saw this scene. Just now, Kong Shinmu rushed out from the power of flames. It could be seen that his defense was strong enough. But now, facing the concentrated attack of the starry sky flame wolf, the star mark blazing burst actually blasted Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body into two. He's dead meat. For a moment, everyone in the spectator seats seemed to have seen the ending. Those who didn't think highly of Kong Shinmu initially heaved a sigh of relief. After all, they were really afraid that Kong Shinmu would kill the starry sky flame wolf like how he defeated the violent rock bear. As for those who bet on Jiang Shenwu's victory, each and every one of them was disappointed. They wanted to take advantage of the 1-5 odds to earn a good sum of money. They didn't expect Kong Shinmu to be so disappointing. His divine dragon body was blasted into two by the opponent. How could he defeat the starry sky flame wolf? Shi Weiing and Jiang Yuaning immediately became worried, and their eyes were filled with worry. Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body was blasted into two. It must be very painful, right? They couldn't help but think like this. Even though they knew that Kong Shinmu's willpower was very strong, at this moment, they couldn't help but feel a little sorry for him. Humph. He's really overestimating himself. This kid is finally going to die in this life and death arena. Does he really think that he's invincible just because he's in the limelight in the clan martial competition? Jiang Fengqing and a few other fellows who looked down on Kong Shinmu all laughed coldly. Jiang Fengqing was still thinking about the 200,000 dragon coins she had lost when she bet on Kong Shinmu. If Kong Shinmu died in the life and death arena, then she would be able to win 40,000 dragon coins, which was a pretty good harvest. Since Kong Shinmu had successfully advanced, his points had already been counted as the Jiang clans. If Kong Shinmu died now, it wouldn't have much of an impact on the Jiang clan. Anyway, they didn't think that Kong Shinmu would be able to enter the top 20 or even top 10. On the Shi clan's side, many elders sighed. They didn't dare to say anything in front of Holy Dragon Shi Tao now, but they all began to feel sorry for the 10 million dragon coins. They could have used it to do many things, but they ended up losing it to a bet in the arena of life and death. It was such a waste. In the arena, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body had been broken into two. In the eyes of the crowd, he had completely lost the possibility of winning. Only sacred dragon Shi Tao had a hopeful look in his eyes. Your talent, how heaven-defying it is, should be shown now. Chapter 3953. In the cage of the life and death arena, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was split into two by the star raging flames. Dragon blood splattered everywhere. This made everyone feel that Kong Shinmu would soon be killed by the starry sky flame wolf. But just when everyone was thinking about this, Kong Shinmu had already succeeded in corroding the starry sky flame wolf's body with his dragon fangs biting down on it, showing no signs of loosening. Kong Shinmu's dragon tail fell heavily on the ground, bringing with it a boundless amount of blood. But at this time, everyone realized that the wounds on Kong Shinmu's black dragon body were actually starting to heal. As the devouring power continued to devour the starry sky flame wolf's life force and flesh essence, Kong Shinmu's injuries actually started to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Moreover, the dragon tail actually started to regenerate. At this point, if Kong Shinmu still continued to hide, he might really die in the hands of the starry sky flame wolf. Therefore, there was no need to continue hiding the characteristic of devouring the opponent to recover one's own talent power. The heavenly saint halberd continuously landed on the starry sky flame wolf's body. Accompanied by the shadow of the dragon fangs, the starry sky flame wolf suffered a fierce attack. More and more wounds appeared as Kong Shinmu's devouring power corroded it. The starry sky flame wolf had just exploded the black dragon body into two. Originally, it thought that victory was in its grasp. Just when it heaved a sigh of relief, it realized that Kong Shinmu had actually only released his strongest attack at this time, and some kind of strange power corroded its body. The starry sky flame wolf's defense wasn't weak, but under Kong Shinmu's concentrated attack, it couldn't withstand it. Bloody holes appeared on its body, and the devouring power corroded it. In the next moment, the situation started to turn. Star raging flames burst. The power of the starry sky and the power of the raging flames merged at almost the same time, blasting towards Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. It was as if a star had exploded beside the black dragon. Terrifying flames spread across the entire area, and the light of the stars exploded. But this time, Kong Shinmu concentrated on the place where the star raging flames exploded and condensed a thick layer of purple magical crystals, forcibly resisting the opponent's attack. Now that the magic crystal dragon martial technique had been upgraded to the dragon grade, it was basically impossible for the starry sky flame wolf to kill Kong Shinmu. Just now, Kong Shinmu had forcefully taken the blow in order to injure his opponent. As a result, his dragon tail had been blown off, making people think that he was about to fail. Devour! The power of the starry sky and the power of raging flames were constantly being absorbed into Kong Shinmu's body. His resistance towards these two types of energies was constantly increasing. By now, the overall rhythm of the battle had already been grasped by Kong Shinmu. There was no possibility of the starry sky flame wolf turning defeat into victory. This was because the power of devouring could make the opponent weaker and weaker, allowing Kong Shinmu to recover quickly. His defense against the opponent's power would become stronger and stronger, causing the difference in strength between the two sides to shrink rapidly. Then, the opponent's strength would be surpassed by Kong Shinmu. This had always been Kong Shinmu's fighting style. Under the effects of the power of devouring, defeating the strong as the weak was nothing at all. This starry sky flame wolf hadn't noticed Kong Shinmu's plan at the beginning and was injured by Kong Shinmu. From then on, it fell into a passive and slow state of death. When the situation stabilized, everyone in the spectator stands was stunned. None of the dignitaries had expected that the tail of the black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into could actually regenerate on the spot after it had been blown off. What kind of terrifying talent was this? Even the regenerative talent of some dragon martial artists wasn't this terrifying. This was also normal. One had to know that the regenerative talent was created from nothing. But Kong Shinmu's power of devouring, on the other hand, was to devour the opponent's life, flesh, and essence for his own use. In this way, he could recover his own injuries and energy that he had exhausted. Among the talents that Kong Shinmu knew, the power of devouring was definitely one of the strongest talents. How is this possible? What kind of talent is this? It can actually recover so quickly. The dragon's tail is the part that dragon martial artists use to maintain balance in flight. Once the dragon's tail is broken, it will be very difficult to maintain flight. This kid, on the other hand, has completely grabbed onto the starry sky flame wolf's body and engaged in a hand-to-hand fight with it. It seems like his talent has corroded into the starry sky flame wolf's body. When everyone was watching the battle, They finally started to think about what kind of power could make Kong Shinmu so unyielding. And as time passed, everyone realized that the Starry Sky Flame Wolf's attacks on Kong Shinmu were getting weaker and weaker. The second Starstreak Raging Flame Burst was no longer able to hurt Kong Shinmu, not to mention the weaker attacks after that. Very quickly, the Starry Sky Flame Wolf's entire body seemed to have withered and became very weak. This was no different from the violent boulder bear that Kong Shinmu had just killed. It was the same situation. At first, there were people who suspected that the life and death arena had done something to these demonic beasts. But very quickly, they confirmed that it was impossible. Now, there were people who doubted this again, because it was too suspicious. Could it be that this kid can really kill the Starry Sky Flame Wolf? Even so, many people didn't believe that the Starry Sky Flame Wolf would die. Some of the high officials and nobles who had bet on Kong Shinmu's death all started to roar in anger. They cheered the Starry Sky Flame Wolf up and hoped that this demonic beast would explode again and kill Kong Shinmu once and for all. Sadly, this sky demon couldn't do this anymore. The power of the Starry Sky and the power of flames had been devoured by Kong Shinmu. This increased the resistance of Kong Shinmu's black dragon body against these two powers to an extremely high level. Any attack from the Starry Sky Flame Wolf was no longer a threat to Kong Shinmu. It was just like tickling him. The Starry Sky and flames in the Starry Sky Flame Wolf's eyes started to dim as if it was on the verge of death. Finally, Kong Shinmu activated the third-grade dragon martial technique, the Shadow Dragon Fong transformation. He tore the Starry Sky Flame Wolf's giant body into pieces and scattered them within the life and death arena's cage. This was the final victory of this battle. Winner, Kong Shinmu. The life and death arena's manager's heart was bleeding. This Starry Sky Flame Wolf was their life and death arena's demonic beast. Now, it actually died in the hands of this kid. No matter how he thought about it, he felt like he was dreaming. How could this happen? However, the truth was right in front of him. Kong Shinmu had transformed into a black dragon and was recovering in the life and death arena. As for the Starry Sky Flame Wolf, it had been completely torn apart and lost its life. Starry Sky and Flames. The resistance of these two powers has reached a very high level. Among them, the power of the fire attribute does not pose much of a threat to me. Even if I meet the Zong family tribe's strongest genius, Zong Feng, I can still fight him. Chapter 3954. When Kong Shinmu left the stage, the spectators burst into a flurry of discussion. Jiang Fengqing and the others were shocked. They never expected the battle to develop in such a way. Wasn't the Starry Sky Flame Wolf very fierce? Why did it suddenly become so dispirited? That kid's talent was said to be the power of devouring. Could it be that the power of devouring could weaken the opponent and also allow him to quickly replenish his energy? Such speculations quickly spread among the crowd. And because Jiang Fengqing had bet 200,000 dragon coins on the option that Kong Shinmu would lose, she could not get her 200,000 dragon coins back. Not only that, she had also let the others of the Jiang clan bet a lot of dragon coins, and now they were all at a loss. What made Jiang Fengqing most angry was that Kong Shinmu did not die. Even though he was blown into two, he did not die. When Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was blown into two, she felt as if she had ascended to heaven. But now, she had suddenly fallen back to hell. Kong Shinmu. He's so strong. The other dragon warriors of the Jiang clan looked at the scene in shock. Even though Jiang Shinwu had already left, it was as if the scene of the battle between the Black Dragon and the Starry Sky Flame Wolf still remained in their eyes. In the beginning of the battle, Kong Shinmu had been crushed. He was even blown into two by the Starry Sky Flame Wolf, who was at the third level of the Sky Demon realm. But later on, Kong Shinmu seized the opportunity and used the power of devouring to turn defeat into victory. It had to be said that it was very exciting. Originally, the dragon warriors of the Jiang clan did not have a good impression of Kong Shinmu. But now they seemed to see hope. According to Kong Shinmu's current strength, he could at least reach the top 20 of the clan tournament, or even the top 10. As such, the Jiang clan's overall score would be very high. At least, they would not be at the bottom. In the next 3 years, Dragon Prison City would provide the Jiang clan with more cultivation resources. This was a good thing for the entire Jiang clan. At this point, besides Jiang Fengqing, the rest of the Jiang clan's dragon warriors didn't have much of an opinion about Kong Shinmu. After witnessing this battle with the Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf, They had quite a bit of confidence in Kong Shin-mu. They hoped that he would be able to fight more and more bravely, and obtain a better ranking in the clan martial competition. At the same time, they regretted slandering and cursing Kong Shin-mu before. Jiang Fengqing was the only one who seemed to be possessed by a demon. She just couldn't bear to see Kong Shin-mu in the limelight and was still very unhappy with him. However, when she saw the others praising Kong Shin-mu, her face darkened. Sacred Dragon Xia Yan's expression was also unsightly. He had just placed a bet that Kong Shin-mu would lose. Like Sacred Dragon Shi Tao, he had placed a bet of 10 million dragon coins. He hadn't expected that the 10 million dragon coins would disappear in the blink of an eye. To Sacred Dragon Xia Yan, this 10 million dragon coins was nothing. The most important thing was his face. Kong Shin-mu had once again taken the limelight, faintly allowing the Shi clan's residents to suppress the Xia clan's residents once again. This made Sacred Dragon Xia Yan very unhappy. As for Sacred Dragon Shi Tao, he was currently laughing heartily. Receiving 50 million dragon coins wasn't what made him the happiest. What made him the happiest was that Kong Shin-mu had actually killed the Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf and didn't disappoint him. From Kong Shin-mu, Sacred Dragon Shi Tao saw the shadow of Jiang Zizai in the past. Although the father and son's innate talent were different, it was clear that both of them would rather die than submit and fight to the death. They were extremely tenacious. In the future, it was very likely that Kong Shin-mu would be able to surpass him, Sacred Dragon Shi Tao. Of course, it was still impossible to achieve this in a short period of time, but it was enough to show Kong Shin-mu's potential. To Shi Tao, the stronger Kong Shin-mu was, the happier he was. This was because Kong Shin-mu was someone he thought highly of. He even wanted to take Kong Shin-mu in as his son-in-law. Naturally, he hoped that Kong Shin-mu would become more and more powerful. Jiang Yuaning and Shi Yueying finally felt relieved when they saw that Kong Shin-mu had finally won. Only when the person who had set up the gambling house gave them the 750,000 1,500,000 dragon coins did they finally come back to their senses. Their eyes were filled with unconcealable joy. Kong Shin-mu had really won. He had defeated the third stage of the Sky Phase Violent Fey Beast, the Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf. Didn't this mean that Kong Shin-mu's strength had reached the third stage of the Divine Martial Realm? At the clan tournament, even against the strongest geniuses like Meng Chou and Zhang Feng, he would still have the strength to fight them. In the spectator stands, there were people from both the Meng tribal clan and the Zhang tribal clan. Although this Kong Shin-mu is very strong, against Big Brother Meng Chou, he definitely wouldn't be able to last 3 moves before being killed by Big Brother Meng Chou. That's right. In front of Big Brother Meng Chou, this Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf isn't even a clown. He can easily kill it. But this kid almost died. It shows the difference. But, I wonder what this kid is doing at the life and death arena? This kind of battle with a Fey Beast is completely different from the battle between dragon warriors. Yes, even if he wins many times in the life and death arena, he might not be able to defeat a dragon warrior of the same strength. I wonder what this kid is thinking. The Meng tribal clan still did not take Kong Shin-mu seriously. But from the initial disdain, they now had some admiration for Kong Shin-mu. At least in the Meng tribal clan, other than a few people, no one was a match for Kong Shin-mu. Other than Meng Chou and a few of the strongest geniuses, none of the genius dragon warriors participating in the clan tournament were a match for the Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf. Kong Shin-mu, who had trained in a body-tempering dragon martial technique, was almost killed by the wolf. It could be seen that if it were any other dragon warrior, they would have been blown to death if they were not careful. In the spectator stands, there was one person who did not participate in the bet, but was very interested in the battle. That was the genius girl from the Ji tribal clan, Ji Yeshuan. Ji Yeshuan had awakened for a long time. She did not participate in this year's clan tournament. She was one of the few people who had appeared in the clan tournament in the past 10 years, second only to Jiang Zizai. She sat in the spectator stands and looked indifferently at the torn Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf. Her eyes revealed a look of interest. She did not expect Kong Shin-mu to be able to turn defeat into victory in such a situation. She was somewhat surprised. Ji Yuan, if you were to meet this person in the clan tournament, would you be able to defeat him? Ji Yeshuan lightly asked a young man behind her. Eldest miss, don't worry. Although this kid can kill the Starry Sky Raging Flame Wolf, to me, it would only take 2 or 3 moves. The young man's name was Ji Yuan. He was the strongest person participating in the clan tournament from the Ji tribal clan. An inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood essence at the 4th stage of the divine martial realm. Ji Yuan's eyes flashed with disdain. He did not put Kong Shinmu in his eyes. After all, his cultivation was 3 stages higher than Kong Shinmu's. But Ji Yeshuan shook her head. You are wrong, Ji Yuan. Chapter 3955. Ji Yeshuan could see the reason why Kong Shinmu came to the life and death arena. She said lightly, "Didn't you notice that when Kong Shinmu was fighting with the starry sky flame wolf, he was unable to withstand its attacks at the beginning, but towards the end, the starry sky flame wolf was unable to harm him? Isn't it because the starry sky flame wolf's life force essence was devoured, and it became weaker and weaker?" Ji Yuan asked curiously. "That's not all." Ji Yeshuan saw through it and explained, "Just the weakness of the starry sky flame wolf itself would not cause its attack power to decrease so quickly. There is another key point, and that is, when Kong Shinmu devoured the starry sky flame wolf's power, he also increased his own resistance towards the starry sky flame wolf's power. This can explain why he chose to come to the life and death arena at this time and choose these demon beasts to fight to the death. It's definitely not to train himself. Otherwise, why didn't he wait until the clan martial competition ended? So, Kong Shinmu is 100% preparing for the clan martial competition. The first one is said to be a giant rock bear. It has the power of a giant rock, similar to the Meng tribe's Meng Cho. This starry sky flame wolf has the power of the starry sky and the power of flames. The latter is similar to the Zong tribe's strongest genius, Zong Feng. Ji Yeshuan squinted her eyes. If I'm not wrong, the opponent he will choose next will definitely have the same or similar strength as some of the experts in the clan martial competition. You mean, he will continue to fight? But he was almost killed by the starry sky flame wolf, and his divine dragon body was split into 2. Ji Yuan said in a deep voice. He looked at the life and death arena cage that was being cleaned, and found it hard to believe. After Ji Yeshuan said these things, he also felt that Kong Shinmu's goal was definitely not to come to the life and death arena to train. The innate talent that Ji Yuan possessed was the power of the stars, which was similar to the starry sky flame wolf's power of the stars. If his resistance towards the power of the stars increased, didn't that mean that Kong Shinmu would have a stronger defense against him? If that was the case, then this person's innate talent was too terrifying. Although this kind of thing was a little suspicious of cheating, such a thing had never happened before, so it couldn't be said that Kong Shinmu violated the rules, mainly because no one could prove it. Even Ji Yeshuan's deduction was only a guess. She couldn't be 100% sure. Many sharp-eyed people could see through Ji Yeshuan's guess, such as Holy Dragon Xia Yan and Holy Dragon Shi Tao. They guessed that Kong Shinmu had thoughts about the first place of the clan martial competition, which was why he chose the Boulder Violent Bear and the Starry Sky Flame Wolf as his opponents. "I'd like to see if you dare to pick more demonic beasts." Holy Dragon Xia Yan sneered. Kong Shinmu's action was very surprising to him, but it also allowed him to guess Kong Shinmu's talent. Therefore, if Kong Shinmu wanted to continue fighting, then the opponents he was going to challenge would represent some specific experts that he was targeting in the clan martial competition. After 5 days of preliminaries, the innate talent that some of the experts possessed had been exposed. Even Meng Chao's giant rock strength had been seen through, let alone the others. This led to Kong Shinmu being able to devour most of the powers once and increase his resistance to them. In this way, Kong Shinmu would have a much easier time in the clan martial competition. Holy Dragon Shi Tao also thought of this, and was looking forward to it in his heart. Maybe, this kid would really be able to obtain first place in the clan martial competition? Of course, Shi Tao wasn't too sure right now. After all, compared to the strongest Meng Cho, Zong Feng, and the others, Kong Shinmu was 3 whole levels lower in cultivation. This difference of 3 levels of cultivation caused the difference in their innate talent to be 7 to 8 times. Such a large gap was difficult to make up for with other things. Even though Kong Shinmu possessed a dragon-level dragon weapon, the halberd of the Heavenly Saint, he could at most make up for 1 level of cultivation. He had to rely on his own innate talent to make up for it. Although the innate talent that Kong Shinmu had displayed was very terrifying, could it really make up for such a large gap in cultivation? Shi Tao was not sure about this either. This was because such a thing had never happened before, nor had Kong Shinmu had such an innate talent. It is said that when this child first awakened as a dragon warrior, he was only an ordinary dragon. He seemed to have relied on his own hard work and luck to walk step by step until he became the inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood essence. Shi Tao was still very optimistic about Kong Xinmu. Not to mention anything else, with such a fortuitous encounter and hard work, his future achievements would definitely not be bad. However, it was easier said than done to win first place in the clan martial competition. However, Kong Xinmu did not care about it. What the spectators were thinking had nothing to do with him. He only needed to ensure that the greatest secret of his innate talent was not exposed, and then challenge as many demonic beasts as possible in the life and death arena, devour enough energy, and increase his resistance to various powers. In this way, there wouldn't be any problems in tomorrow's semi-finals. As for the finals, dealing with the strongest people like Meng Chou and Zhang Feng would depend on how the battle went. Following that, Kong Xinmu began to choose even more opponents. One after another, second and third level sky demon beasts went up to the cage of the life and death arena to fight with Kong Xinmu. Kong Xinmu killed these demonic beasts one by one and devoured their various powers. In the beginning, there were people who bet that Kong Xinmu would die in the hands of these demonic beasts, but as the third and fourth demonic beasts were killed by Kong Xinmu, all the spectators were numb to it. If it wasn't for the fact that the life and death arena had nothing to do with Kong Xinmu, everyone would have thought that this kid was hired by the life and death arena to swindle money. The key was that in such a matter, the life and death arena itself had suffered heavy losses. These powerful demonic beasts were all captured alive after spending a lot of money. They had all experienced hundreds of battles and were the cash cows of the life and death arena. Now, one by one, they had died in the hands of Kong Xinmu. This made the hearts of the investors of the life and death arena bleed. Including the first violent rock bear and the second starry sky raging flame wolf, Kong Xinmu had killed 7 powerful sky demons in a row, nearly monopolizing the life and death arena. During this period of time, Jiang Yuaning and Shi Yueying would bet on Kong Xinmu's victory every time. The two girls originally had 50,000 and 100,000 dragon coins respectively. Now they had won 5 million and 10 million respectively. The main reason was that the odds for the first 4 times were too high. But the next 3 times, they did not earn much money. Because the odds had dropped, they could only win 100,000 even if they bet 1 million. But it was still meat. In every battle, the two girls would still bet all their money on Kong Xinmu's victory. Chapter 3956. Before midnight, Kong Xinmu had consecutively killed 7 second and third tier sky fey ferocious fey beasts. This made the people in charge of the life and death arena weep bitterly. Although he had earned a lot from the entrance tickets, the loss of 7 ferocious fey beasts was actually a huge one. The only ones who really earned money were the spectators who had bet on Kong Xinmu's victory from the beginning, as well as Kong Xinmu himself. According to the rules of the life and death arena, Kong Xinmu would receive 1 million for winning the first round, and 2 million for winning the second round. Every additional round would give him an additional million, so on and so forth. Kong Xinmu had earned a total of 28 million dragon coins. In addition to the half of the donations he received from the spectators, it added up to a total of 50 million dragon coins. To the former Kong Xinmu, this was an unimaginable amount of wealth. The entire Jiang tribal clan's annual expenses were about this amount. If they added a bit more, they would be able to buy a grade 4 or even a grade 3 dragon martial technique manual. Of course, Jiang Xinwu's assets were mainly used to buy cultivation elixirs. His greatest weakness now was that his cultivation was too weak. Otherwise, he would not need to go through so much trouble to devour the power of these ferocious fey beasts. Fortunately, after these 7 battles, Jiang Xinwu had practically devoured the strength of all the experts in the clan martial competition. Even if some of them weren't exactly the same, their attributes were more or less the same, and it was enough to allow Jiang Xinwu's defense to reach a level where it was difficult for his opponent to break through. I can also buy some cultivation elixirs and try to see if I can raise it to the 2nd tier of the divine martial realm. This point would depend on the sacred dragon Shi Tao. 50 million was definitely not a small amount. If the dragon aura crystal that he had obtained in the Dragonbone Valley were to appear in an auction, it would probably sell for more than 1 million. Unfortunately, there was no market for it. Most importantly, it did not have that strong of an effect on ordinary dragon martial artists. If he had 50 dragon energy crystals, Kong Xinmu could even devour them all and attempt to transform them into sacred dragon blood essence. However, this item was too rare. Even if he searched the entire dragon prison domain, he might not be able to find it. There was no need to worry about it. Kong Xinmu received 50 million yuan and instantly became a tycoon. There was another person who also made money, and that was the holy dragon Shi Tao. However, he only participated in one bet and earned 40 million. After that, he didn't participate in any more bets. It wasn't that he didn't want to earn money, but that he couldn't bear to part with such a huge sum of money. If Kong Xinmu were to lose, then the tens of millions would go down the drain. It would be a huge loss to the entire Shi clan residents. In any case, he had already won so much, which was enough for the holy dragon Shi Tao. Furthermore, for a holy dragon, money was just a mere worldly possession. He did not view it as important. After coming out of the life and death arena, Kong Xinmu met up with Shi Tao, Xueqi, and the others, including Jiang Yuaning. Recently, the Chamber of Commerce in the city still has some good cultivation resources, such as the Qitian spirit pill refined from the Qitian spirit grass. Although the effect is relatively small for dragon warriors in the divine martial arts realm, if there are a lot of them, they can still be useful. Holy Dragon Shi Tao said lightly. He had a very deep understanding of the cultivation path of a dragon warrior. The Qitian spirit grass was very valuable. Back then, it had allowed Kong Xinmu to directly raise his cultivation by one level, but it was impossible now. If he wanted to raise from the first level of the divine martial realm to the fourth level of the divine martial realm, other than years of bitter cultivation, it was too difficult to rely on medicinal pills to raise his cultivation. Even the holy dragon Shi Tao did not have that many resources to use on Shi Yueying's two daughters. These cultivation pills were extremely precious. 50 million was enough for an ordinary dragon warrior to use for a lifetime, but if it was used to buy cultivation pills, it might not even be enough for Kong Xinmu to raise his cultivation by one level. Of course, regardless of whether or not he could improve, Kong Xinmu had to buy it. Very quickly, he followed the holy dragon Shi Tao to the Chamber of Commerce and bought 10 cultivation pills. For the sake of Shi Tao, it was a little cheaper, but he had also spent all the 50 million he had earned in the life and death arena. Such an opportunity to earn money would probably not come again in the future. After all, after this incident, the life and death arena had suffered a great loss, and would definitely refuse to let him enter again for a long time. Even if he was allowed to enter, he would only be able to challenge some very strong and ferocious demon beasts, such as those at the 5th or 6th level of the Sky Demon realm. It was impossible for Kong Xinmu to continue winning money like this. Even with Shi Tao's face, it was impossible, because Shi Tao was also one of the investors of the life and death arena. To Jiang Xinwu, these 10 medicinal pills were considered a very large sum of assets. It also made him understand that after a dragon warrior reached the divine martial realm, it was very difficult to raise his cultivation level. No wonder those dragon warriors who had awakened 2 years earlier than him were only at the 4th level of the divine martial realm. At most, they were at the 5th level of the divine martial realm, which was already extremely rare. Even Meng Chou and Zhang Feng were only at the 4th level of the divine martial realm. At night, Kong Xinmu took the 10 medicinal pills in the Shi clan mansion. In the end, he discovered that there was indeed no way to raise his cultivation to the 2nd level of the divine martial realm. However, he was already very close to the 2nd level of the divine martial realm. Who knew when he would be able to break through? Breaking through in battle is the most ideal, but I don't know if there will be such an opportunity in the semi-finals. Right now, he was very confident in the clan martial tournament. As long as his cultivation level increased, he was absolutely confident that he could obtain first place in the entire clan martial tournament. The next day, the clan martial tournament continued. At this time, out of the 340 genius dragon warriors from the 17 clans, only 100 were left to enter the semi-finals. Kong Xinmu and Jiang Liuxue were among them. In the entire Jiang clan, only the 2 of them had entered the semi-finals. It could be seen that the overall strength of the Jiang clan was indeed not very good. If this continued, the Jiang clan was likely to be banned in 10 years. Fortunately, in this clan martial tournament, Kong Xinmu had risen. Yesterday, when Kong Xinmu defeated Zhang Shijian, many people looked down on him, thinking that he wouldn't even be able to enter the top 20. But after last night's deadly battle in the life and death arena, Kong Xinmu's 7 consecutive victories had proven his strength. He could definitely enter the top 20. Now, the key was to see if he could enter the top 10. Jiang Fengqing and the others from the Jiang clan did not dare to say anything more, because she realized that Kong Xinmu had already far surpassed her. It was not something she could compare with. The key was that Kong Shinmu could bring more resources to the Jiang clan. The others from the Jiang clan had gradually stood on Kong Shinmu's side. If Jiang Fengqing had said anything more, there would have been people who would have retorted or even talked back to her. Chapter 3957. The rules of the semi-finals were for the 100 Genius Dragon Warriors to draw lots and fight each other. There were a total of 3 rounds. The entire process of the semi-finals was divided into 3 days. Finally, the top 20 would be selected to participate in the finals. In today's first round of semi-finals, there were a total of 50 victors who would advance directly. The other 50 losers would fight again to select 20 to advance. A total of 70 people could participate in the second round. In other words, 30 people would be eliminated in the first round. The rules of the second round were similar to the first round. 30 people would be eliminated from the 70. The remaining 40 people in the third round would be the true elimination round. The victors would advance, while the losers would be eliminated. Kong Shinmu and the other 100 Genius Dragon Warriors went up the stage and prepared to draw lots. Among them, there were a few people that people paid the most attention to. One of them was Meng Chou from the Meng tribal clan, the other was Zhang Feng from the Zhang tribal clan, and the last one was Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu's performance in the life and death arena yesterday had shocked countless people. Although they did not think that he was a match for Meng Chou or Zhang Feng, they knew that Kong Shinmu's battle power was certain to enter the top 20. After all, Jiang Shenwu was someone who could even kill a starry sky flame wolf. He was in existence at the 3rd level of the Sky Demon realm. His strength was not weaker than some inheritors of the Sky Dragon blood essence who were at the 3rd level of the Divine Martial Arts realm. Besides Meng Chou and Zhang Feng, the crowd had already placed Kong Shinmu in the same position as the other powerful Genius Dragon Warriors. He was in the 2nd tier. Hence, the first round of drawing lots was of utmost importance. If the lot was not good, and he got an expert like Meng Chou or Zhang Feng, he would definitely have to wait for the second chance in the losers group. There was still a chance to continue advancing. Among the 100 geniuses, Meng Tianqing, Zhang Shijian, Jiang Liuxue and company were impressively in the list. The 3 of them cast their gazes towards Kong Shinmu. They had a deep fear of him. Previously, Meng Tianqing and Zhang Shijian felt that they had been defeated by Kong Shinmu because they had been too careless. Now, they knew that they were no longer a match for Kong Shinmu. After all, if they were to deal with the starry sky raging flame wolf, they would most likely die. However, Kong Shinmu had defeated the ferocious sky demon. His strength was terrifying. As for Jiang Liuxue, she had originally planned to have a showdown with Kong Shinmu in the semi-finals. Now, she knew that Kong Shinmu had already surpassed her by too much. Even without the dragon-grade halberd of the Heavenly Saint, she was still not Kong Shinmu's opponent. This kid's speed of improvement was simply too fast. Soon, the results of the draw were out. The one fighting against Kong Shinmu was a Genius Dragon Warrior from the 2nd tier, who also had the potential to enter the top 20. He was Qiu Linyun from the Qiu tribe, the inheritor of the Heavenly Dragon's blood essence at the 3rd level of the Divine Martial Realm. Previously, in the first round of the preliminaries, Kong Shinmu had met Qiu Fenglan from the Qiu tribe. In that battle, Kong Shinmu had devoured his opponent's talent and spent a very long time to defeat him, causing everyone to think that Kong Shinmu's strength was insufficient. At that time, no one had thought that Kong Shinmu could actually possess such terrifying strength, and that he could even win 7 battles in a row in the life and death arena, shocking the entire Dragon Prison City. Qiu Fenglan, I will avenge you and defeat this kid in the arena. Qiu Linyun was a carefree and elegant gentleman. After drawing lots against Kong Shinmu, he looked at Kong Shinmu with a fierce expression. He was the strongest warrior in the Qiu tribe, and his goal was to get into the top 10 in the clan martial competition. Other than Meng Tianqing, Zhang Feng, and the other top geniuses, he was the strongest group of geniuses. He heard that many people were talking about the strength of Kong Shinmu, talking about his 7 consecutive victories in the life and death arena last night. So he was naturally not convinced. He was confident that if he were to fight against the starry sky flame wolf that everyone was talking about, he would also be able to kill it. Unfortunately, he had overlooked one point, and that was that he was already at the 3rd level of the Divine Martial Realm, while Kong Shinmu had just stepped into the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm. Qiu Fenglan lost to Kong Shinmu in the first preliminary round, but she didn't have much resentment towards Kong Shinmu. After all, in the clan martial competition, If one's strength was insufficient, they would be eliminated. This was very normal. She nodded and said to Xueqi, "Be careful, his devouring power is very strange. You must fight to the end. You can't give him any chance, otherwise you will gradually lose the possibility of defeating him." Many people were already guessing the effect of Kong Shinmu's devouring power. The most basic was to devour the opponent's flesh and blood essence to recover one's own strength and injuries. Also, it could rely on the devouring power to increase one's resistance to certain powers. Xueqi's innate power was the power of the tree ancestor. This kind of power was the innate power of the wood attribute. Before, Kong Shinmu had not encountered it in the life and death arena, so he didn't have much resistance to this kind of power. Based on this, Xueqi still had the confidence to defeat Kong Shinmu. Of course, he also knew that he must fight to the end. He couldn't show any mercy, or he would very likely lose to Kong Shinmu in the end. In the Zhang tribe, besides Kong Shinmu, Zhang Xueqi had also entered the semi-finals. Her opponent was the genius of the Ji tribe, Ji Yuan. Without a doubt, Ji Yuan was a 4th-tier divine martial realm sky dragon blood essence dragon warrior. He had the same cultivation level as Meng Chou and Zhang Feng. Although his strength couldn't compare to Meng Chou and Zhang Feng, he could easily crush Zhang Xueqi with just his cultivation level. In the first round of the semi-finals, Zhang Xueqi had already encountered a strong opponent, which put a lot of pressure on her. Against Ji Yuan, Zhang Xueqi can't be his opponent. She will definitely lose this match. Let's see if Zhang Xueqi has a chance to advance in the losers group. In the Zhang tribe, everyone was on tenterhooks. One had to know that Zhang Xueqi was their only hope. Although there was Kong Shinmu, they didn't want Zhang Xueqi to be eliminated. That would be too tragic. As for those who had drawn Meng Chou and Zhang Feng as their opponents, they all had long faces. The dragon warriors who had drawn strong opponents knew that they were no match for their opponents, but they wouldn't give up so easily. No matter what, they had to try. This was the perseverance of a dragon warrior. To lose without a fight was the greatest shame of a dragon warrior. If it was in the outside world, where there was a great disparity in strength, it would be a wise choice. But in the clan tournament, it was a battle between geniuses. Even if they couldn't defeat their opponents, as long as they showed their superiority in the battle, they might be noticed by the big shots of Dragon Prison City. This made it impossible for them to retreat without a fight and admit defeat. The first round of the 50 semi-finals was about to begin. Kong Shinmu was still the first to go on stage. He went up to one of the arenas with the elegant gentleman, Xueqi. On the other 4 arenas, there were also dragon warriors facing each other. Chapter 3958. After Kong Shinmu got on the stage, he stood on the same arena with Xueqi, the inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood essence, who was at the 3rd level of the divine martial realm. Xueqi's eyes flashed with a dignified look. Obviously, he attached great importance to Kong Shinmu. In any case, Kong Shinmu's reputation was now like the sun in the sky. Even Meng Tianxing and Zhang Shijian were defeated by him, and he even killed the starry sky flame wolf. His strength was terrifying. And Xueqi had the power of the tree ancestor, which was a type of talent power that Kong Shinmu had not been able to devour before. It was Xueqi's greatest guarantee against Kong Shinmu. "Kong Shinmu, I will defeat you," Xueqi said coldly. "Then come." Kong Shinmu did not have any expression. As the host on the stage announced the star of the first battle, Kong Shinmu, Xueqi, and the other dragon warriors on the other 4 arenas all activated their bloodlines, transformed into divine dragon bodies, and soared in the air of the arena in an instant. All kinds of talent power directly burst out, and the entire arena was filled with fierce collisions of power. There was a constant deafening sound of power impact. Xueqi did not hesitate in the slightest. He knew very well that Kong Shinmu's fighting strength would become stronger and stronger, so he did not intend to give Kong Shinmu any chance. As soon as the battle began, Xueqi directly activated the power of the tree ancestor in his body. In an instant, a large amount of emerald green talent power burst out, like a sea of green trees, and suddenly swept towards the black dragon body that Kong Shinmu had transformed into. Countless emerald green vines wrapped around the entire black dragon body of Kong Shinmu, and invaded into his body. They also had the effect of devouring the power in his body. In the face of the opponent's first attack, Kong Shinmu did not panic. The devouring power in his body directly condensed on the surface of the divine dragon body, and with the defense of the purple magic crystal, he successfully blocked the countless emerald green vines. Even if the power of the tree ancestor wanted to invade his body, it would not be able to penetrate his defenses. When Kong Shinmu advanced to the first level of the god martial arts realm, his innate ability became even stronger. His devouring power quickly began to devour the power of the tree grandmaster. For a moment, the opponent couldn't do anything to Kong Shinmu. Azure Wave Heaven Connecting Break. At this time, Qiu Linyun's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. He finally used a 4th-grade dragon martial technique. In an instant, the power of the tree ancestor condensed into a giant tree that reached the sky. It grew out of the black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into, piercing through Kong Shinmu's dragon body in an instant. This 4th-grade dragon martial skill, Sky-Connecting Azure Wave Break, had actually been cultivated to the level of dragon. It was an extremely frightening attack, condensing the power of the tree ancestor to form a huge tree that connected to the sky. The branches were sharp, and their destructive and penetrative power had reached the pinnacle. Kong Shinmu also didn't expect that the opponent would have such a sharp attack. He was struck for a moment, but he managed to avoid being hit in the vital parts of his body. The golden light of the heavenly Saint Halberd flashed on his body, quickly covering his wounds. The pitch-black devouring power quickly enveloped the huge tree, and then Kong Shinmu exploded with all his strength. "Devour for me!" The next moment, under the corrosion of the devouring power, the entire tree began to rot. The power of the tree ancestor that made up the giant tree was all swallowed into Kong Shinmu's body, becoming a part of his strength and increasing his resistance against the innate ability of the wood element. I actually failed to kill him. Again, Sky-Connecting Azure Wave Break. Qiu Linyun didn't hesitate at all. Just now, he failed to hit Kong Shinmu's vital parts, but now, he directly aimed at Kong Shinmu's black dragon heart, wanting to condense the power of the tree ancestor and penetrate it completely. Unfortunately, Kong Shinmu was prepared. He used the devouring power to defend near the heart, and the golden light of the heavenly Saint Halberd also flickered continuously, actually combining with the purple magic crystal near the heart, forming a thick layer of defense. The giant tree condensed from the power of the tree ancestor suddenly grew, and the sharp branches suddenly swept over, instantly bombarding the purple magic crystal's defensive barrier. Unexpectedly, it was easily blocked. Now that Kong Shinmu's magic crystal dragon martial skill had broken through to the level of dragon, the concentrated defensive power had reached an extremely terrifying level. Now that he was prepared, Kong Shinmu was in a completely invincible position against an opponent like Qiu Linyun. Seeing that his dragon martial skill failed to kill Kong Shinmu, Qiu Linyun's face was full of shock. At the same time, his expression became solemn, because he knew very well that now that his attacks were ineffective against Kong Shinmu, it was basically impossible for him to kill Kong Shinmu in the future. I admit defeat. Qiu Linyun directly admitted defeat, because even if he admitted defeat, it was still possible for him to move forward after falling into the losers group. Instead of fighting to the death with Kong Shinmu and wasting his strength here, it was better to simply admit defeat. Not only could he preserve his strength, but it could also let Kong Shinmu devour less wood element talent power, so that his defense against wood element talent power would not be so strong. Admit defeat? Kong Shinmu was a little surprised. When this Qiu Linyun came on stage, his determination to defeat him was still very strong. He didn't expect that he would actually admit defeat now, which was unexpected. However, thinking about it, many people were already very familiar with Kong Shinmu's fighting style. As long as they couldn't kill Kong Shinmu in the beginning, there was almost no possibility of winning, unless the opponent's talent power was also like Kong Shinmu's, an existence that could become stronger the more they fought. However, the existence of this kind of talent power was originally not common, and the possibility of it appearing in the clan martial tournament was even lower. Qiu Linyun quickly left the stage, his complexion not very good. One must know that he originally wanted to fight for the top 20, but now he actually lost to Kong Shinmu in the first round of the semi-finals, which was a humiliation for him. However, on second thought, Kong Shinmu was now in the limelight, and he was very strong, so it was not too unjust to lose to him. I didn't expect Kong Shinmu's strength to have already grown to such a level. Even Qiu Linyun was defeated by this person. It seems that in this year's clan martial tournament, this Kong Shinmu will definitely be able to enter the top 10. It's not just the top 10. This Qiu Linyun seems to still be quite a distance away from Kong Xinmu. From this, it can be speculated that this Kong Xinmu probably has the battle prowess of the top 5. The top 5, it's not that exaggerated. One must know that the top 5 are all inheritors of the heavenly dragon blood essence at the 4th level of the divine martial realm. How could they be defeated so easily? Everyone discussed animatedly, and their evaluation of Kong Xinmu rose by another level. Of course, until now, no one believed that Kong Xinmu could defeat Meng Qiu and Zhang Feng, the 2 strongest experts in the entire clan martial tournament. The semi-finals continued. Very quickly, Zhang Liuxue was defeated by Ji Yuan and could only fall into the losers group. With Zhang Liuxue's strength, it would be a little difficult for her to enter the next round. Of course, it would also depend on her luck. Let's see if she could enter the top 20 in the losers group. That way, she would be able to advance to the second round of the semi-finals. Chapter 39-59. Next was the losers group. Kong Xinmu sat in the spectator stands and did not pay attention to these people's matches. After all, these were people who had lost in the first round of the semi-finals. There were not many people who were qualified to be his opponents. Even Qiu Linyun, whom he had just defeated, could be considered the strongest person in the losers group. In the first round of drawing lots, there were no strong clashes. The battle between Kong Xinmu and Qiu Linyun could be considered the most intense. Of course, what made people unhappy was that Qiu Linyun directly admitted defeat, so the battle did not last long. In the second round of the semi-finals, Zhang Liuxue encountered an inheritor of the true dragon blood of the 3rd level of the divine martial realm. Her luck was not bad. After a battle, she successfully defeated her opponent and entered the second round of the semi-finals. However, Zhang Liuxue was also very clear that it was not easy to enter the second round of the semi-finals. It was even very likely that she would encounter an opponent she could not deal with. Just like in the first round, she was directly defeated by Ji Yuan and had no chance to resist. Although her talent was not weak, the main thing was that she had only cultivated for less than a year, and her martial cultivation was much weaker than the others. This was unfair to her, but there was nothing she could do. The clan martial competition was held once every 3 years, so it would not be absolutely fair. This scale of competition determined the distribution of benefits among the clans. It was difficult to hold it every year, and there was no need for it. For Dragon King Qiu, the clan tournament was only a means for the distribution of benefits among the clans. It was a test of average strength, so it was normal for it to be a little unfair. Qiu Linyun also successfully defeated his opponent and advanced to the second round of the semi-finals. Now, there were a total of 70 people left to participate in the second round of the competition. In the first round, 30 people were directly eliminated. In the second round of the semi-finals, another 30 people would be eliminated, leaving only 40 people to compete for the finals. Whether or not the Zhang clan can obtain enough cultivation resources in the next 3 years depends on you. At this time, Zhang Yuaning came to Kong Xinmu's side and said to him, "Yes, I will strive to achieve the best results for the Zhang clan." Kong Xinmu solemnly nodded. He was, after all, the son of Zhang Zizai, a member of the Zhang clan. Even though Zhang Rong had become the patriarch and had even chased him out of the Zhang clan, he could not ignore the Zhang clan. As long as he achieved good results in the clan martial competition, he would have enough right to speak and pull Zhang Rong down from his horse. Fortunately, this initial goal was getting closer and closer. Right now, Kong Xinmu had swallowed all kinds of innate powers in his body, so he had a strong resistance against all kinds of dragon warriors' powers. Even the strongest Meng Qiu and Zhang Feng, who possessed the power of giant rock and the power of spiritual fire respectively, to the current Kong Xinmu, they did not have much destructive power. Of course, it was worth noting that their cultivation was too high, and the destructive power of their talent was far greater than that of ordinary dragon martial artists. If Kong Xinmu was not careful, it was very likely that he would fail miserably and be defeated by them. Therefore, they had to be extremely careful in the finals. The next day, Kong Xinmu and Shi Yueying arrived at the martial arts practice grounds where the clan martial competition was held. "Good luck." A hint of gratification appeared on Shi Yueying's ice-cold face. "You've already come this far. You're not far from your goal." "Yes." Kong Xinmu nodded. He did not know who his opponent would be today, but no matter who it was, he had the confidence to face them. Of course, the prerequisite was that there was a need to fight with the opponent in the second round of the semi-finals. When everyone gathered at the clan martial competition's martial arts practice grounds, the drawing of lots for the second round of the semi-finals began. Very quickly, the results of the drawing of lots came out. Kong Xinmu's opponent was actually the strongest warrior from the Zong clan, Zong Feng. This caused Kong Xinmu to frown slightly. Zong Feng was an expert at the 4th level of the divine martial realm, who possessed the power of spiritual fire. In the entire clan martial competition, his overall strength was definitely ranked in the top 3. If he were to fight with him now, and if he were to suffer any serious injuries, it would very likely affect the third round of the semi-finals tomorrow. After all, it was only the semi-finals. Kong Xinmu pondered for a moment and decided to give up on this battle. In any case, it would be extremely easy for him to stand out in the losers group. There was no need for him to go head-to-head with Zong Feng. Furthermore, even if he were to defeat Zong Feng now, Zong Feng would still stand out in the losers group. In the end, he might still have to fight with Zong Feng. Although Kong Xinmu was confident that he could defeat his opponent, he did not want to fight with such a difficult opponent. "I forfeit," Kong Xinmu said straightforwardly. Forfeiting a battle wouldn't affect his final result. His ultimate goal was first place, so it would be best if he could consume as little energy as possible. When he made this decision, all the dragon warriors in the arena were shocked. However, after the shock, they expressed their understanding towards Kong Xinmu's choice. This kid knows his own strength. He knows that he's not Zong Feng's opponent, so he directly chose to forfeit. That's right. If he were to fight with Zong Feng, he might be seriously injured. In that case, he might not even be able to defeat his opponent in the losers group. In order to ensure that he can enter the semi-finals, this Kong Xinmu's idea is not bad. I thought he would be so arrogant as to fight with Zong Feng. The crowd laughed and discussed. The strongest youth of the Zong clan, Zong Feng, looked at Kong Xinmu with disdain. Although he understood Kong Xinmu's decision, he looked down on him because of it. He had originally thought of Kong Xinmu as his opponent, but now it seemed that this little protagonist was a coward. Facing him, he didn't even dare to fight and forfeited. It was really disappointing. Regarding the crowd's discussion, Kong Xinmu did not care at all. This is a strategy. Xueqi was very familiar with Kong Xinmu. She knew that Kong Xinmu was not a person who would easily give up, but there was no need to waste energy in a meaningless battle. Apart from Xueqi and Shi Tao, the majority of the spectators felt that Kong Xinmu had really forfeited. For a moment, they were disappointed with Kong Xinmu. But no matter how disappointed they were, it did not affect Kong Xinmu. For Kong Xinmu, he only hoped for the final victory. As for the process, he only needed to ensure that it was the safest. He did not need to win all the way. After a morning, the second semi-finals of the clan tournament had finally ended. Zong Feng won without a fight and entered the third semi-finals. Qiu Linyun was the same. In addition, there were Ji Yuan, Meng Chou, and other powerful dragon warriors of the clan who had not been defeated. But what the Zhang clan did not look forward to was Zhang Liuxue. She had encountered an inheritor of the heavenly dragon blood, who was one level higher than her. It was Meng Luotian from the Meng clan, and she had suffered a crushing defeat. The Zhang clan is too weak. That Kong Xinmu is the same. Chapter 3960. Zhang Liushua's loss to Meng Luotian filled the Zhang clan with righteous indignation. 8. In addition to Meng Luotian's disdain for the Zhang clan, the crowd was very unhappy. But the truth left them speechless, because even Kong Xinmu had admitted defeat in front of Zong Feng. It clearly had a great impact on the Zhang clan's morale. This Kong Xinmu didn't even dare to fight and admitted defeat. It's so infuriating. What a pity for Zhang Liuxue. Even in the loser's bracket, it would be difficult for him to defeat his opponent. Sigh, if Zhang Liuxue had cultivated for another year, the situation would not be like this. Would there be a need for Kong Xinmu to be so arrogant? The Zhang clan sighed endlessly. Next was the loser's bracket battle of the second semi-finals. Kong Xinmu and Zhang Liuxue both needed to fight. What made the Zhang clan suffer a heavy blow was that Zhang Liushue's opponent was an expert of the second tier of the divine martial realm with the heavenly dragon blood essence. His strength was comparable to Meng Luotian's, but he had just encountered Ji tribe's Ji Yuan, so he had fallen into the loser's bracket. In this situation, Zhang Liushue's chances of defeating his opponent were slim. In comparison, Jiang Xinwu's chances of winning were higher. Although he had forfeited in front of Zhang Feng and lost his momentum, he was still able to defeat Qiu Linyun in the first round and force Qiu Linyun to admit defeat. His strength was still proven. Kong Xinmu's opponent in the loser's bracket was an inheritor of the third tier of the divine martial realm with the true dragon blood essence. To Kong Xinmu, this guy posed no threat. But his opponent did not think so. He did not immediately admit defeat, but instead decided to seize the last opportunity. If he could defeat Kong Xinmu, he could enter the third semi-finals and gain a few more points for his clan. Finally, he could get a few more rewards. Unfortunately, after going on stage, Kong Xinmu did not give his opponent any chance. Kong Xinmu's resistance to this fellow's innate ability to control fire was extremely strong. No matter what method the other party used, he could not break through Kong Xinmu's defense. On the other hand, Kong Xinmu activated the Heavenly Saint's halberd. Combining the golden halberd with the Shadow Dragon Fang transformation, he easily forced his opponent into a corner. In the end, he could only choose to surrender. Kong Xinmu can only bully the inheritor of the true dragon blood essence. If he really encounters an expert, he won't even dare to fart. That's right. I want to see how long he can be so arrogant. Many of the dragon warriors in the spectator stands had lost their initial expectations for Kong Xinmu. After all, admitting defeat to Zhang Feng meant that Kong Xinmu most likely did not want to take first place. This caused everyone to lose interest in him. The meaning of being able to obtain first place in the clan martial competition was completely different. Of course, the strength that Kong Xinmu had displayed was enough to make people respect him. However, he did not completely surpass the others, so the others did not have any reverence for him. They only treated him as an ordinary genius and felt that he was not worthy of being valued so highly by the Shi clan. With regards to the opinions of the crowd, Kong Xinmu was naturally disdainful. However, when the crowd dispersed, Holy Dragon Xia Yan came over and laughed mockingly at Holy Dragon Shi Tao. You didn't expect this, did you? The Kong Xinmu that you nurtured actually took the initiative to give up and admit defeat. It's too disappointing. It seems that this time, you found a bad partner for your daughter. The clan martial competition hasn't ended yet. It's too early to come to a conclusion. Shi Tao's expression did not change. He did not lose confidence in Kong Xinmu as he said indifferently. Then I'll wait for him to rise up, haha. Xia Yan laughed proudly and turned to leave. Early the next morning, the third round of the semi-finals finally began. This was the last day of the semi-finals. It would decide the final 20 people who would advance to the finals. In this third round, there were no losers group battles. The 40 people would fight each other in pairs. The loser would be eliminated, and the winner would advance to the finals. It was that simple. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, the 40 dragon warriors went up on stage to draw lots. Very quickly, Kong Xinmu discovered that his opponent was the genius of the Meng clan, Meng Luotian, who had defeated Zhang Liuxue the day before and had even ridiculed him in the Zhang clan. Meng Luotian possessed the heavenly dragon's blood essence, which was at the second level of the divine martial realm. His strength was not bad, but in Kong Xinmu's eyes, he was not a threat at all. Meng Luotian grasped the innate frost power, but it was not a threat to Kong Xinmu. This was because he had previously fought with an ice-attributed demon beast in the life and death arena, and had devoured a lot of ice-attributed energy. At this moment, Meng Luotian's expression turned ugly. He did not expect that after ridiculing the Jiang clan yesterday, he would encounter Kong Xinmu today. It had to be known that Kong Xinmu had even forced Qiu Linyun, who was at the third level of the divine martial realm, to admit defeat. He, Meng Luotian, was weaker than Qiu Linyun, so how could he be Kong Xinmu's opponent? However, it's possible that Qiu Linyun is too cowardly. Meng Luotian, after you go up on stage, you should test him. At the very least, you should seriously injure him, so that he won't be able to win a single match in the finals. Someone from the Meng clan said to Meng Luotian with a smile. Meng Luotian's luck and strength were not bad in the Meng clan, but compared to Kong Xinmu, he was much weaker. Originally, he did not expect to advance to the finals. After all, he was only at the second level of the divine martial realm. His cultivation was too low, so the possibility of him advancing was not high. But he never thought that he would encounter Kong Shinmu. No matter what, I won't just give up and admit defeat. That would be too embarrassing. Meng Luotian did not hesitate to go up on stage and face off against Kong Shinmu. Yesterday, you were the one who said that our Jiang clan is too weak. What about now? Kong Shinmu said lightly to Meng Luotian. Meng Luotian coldly snorted and spat. Isn't that the truth? Even if it's you, it's just that your luck is a little bit better. Cut the crap. Come on, I'll let you know the power of our Meng clan. He had cultivated quite a number of grade 4 dragon martial techniques, and had comprehended them to the level of the dragon class. Their killing power was extremely strong. If he was facing an ordinary first level of the divine martial realm Sky Dragon Blood Essence Dragon Warrior, he would probably be able to kill his opponent in one move. Unfortunately, his opponent was Kong Shinmu. The Frost Divine Dragon instantly appeared on stage. It roared and sprayed a hail of ice rain at Kong Shinmu. The hail rolled down, mixed with frost arrows, and covered the entire arena. Magic crystals. Purple magic crystals appeared all over Kong Shinmu's body, and he transformed into a black divine dragon. He charged straight into his opponent's blizzard without any hesitation. Explode. Chapter 3961. The blizzard exploded on the spot, and the sharp shards of ice continued to attack Kong Shinmu's body. The destructive power of the shards of ice was terrifying, but unfortunately, the purple demonic crystal on the surface of Kong Shinmu's body glowed with a golden sacred light. With the help of the heavenly sacred halberd, his opponent couldn't break through his defense at all. And this was already Meng Luotian's strongest move. Meng Luotian was completely shocked when Jiang Shenwu, who had transformed into 100 Jiang tall black divine dragon, emerged from the snowstorm and was completely unscathed. He didn't expect that Kong Shinmu would be unscathed. Although he was prepared for Kong Shinmu's strong defense, he thought that if he attacked Kong Shinmu with his strongest move, he would at least injure Kong Shinmu a little. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to be shocked. The black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into descended from the sky, and his sharp dragon claws directly grabbed the body of the frost dragon. The devouring power continued to spread on the surface of the dragon. The originally light blue frost dragon was quickly covered by the devouring power, and its innate ability was rapidly devoured. Layers of defensive barriers appeared on the surface of the frost dragon, trying to stop the devouring power from spreading. Unfortunately, it was of no use. Even if the frost power exploded, it couldn't hurt Kong Shinmu at all. At this moment, Meng Luotian realized that the gap between him and Kong Shinmu was actually so huge. It's all because of that dragon-grade dragon weapon. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to escape unscathed. Meng Luotian gritted his teeth. Meng Luotian tightly clenched his teeth. The divine dragon roared and struggled unceasingly. He was truly unwilling to admit defeat just like that. However, no matter how much he struggled, he was unable to break free from the jet-black dragon. Moreover, he could feel that the power of ice in his body was being devoured very quickly, which made him feel extremely terrified. If this continued, it was very likely that all his power would be devoured, and he would die of weakness. This innate ability is too terrifying. In the end, Meng Luotian was unable to endure the fear in his heart, and he admitted defeat while trembling. Only then did Kong Shinmu let go of Meng Luotian. It was only a duel. There was no need to kill him. If they met in the wilderness, Meng Luotian would not be so lucky. Although I lost to you, if you were to meet brother Meng Cho, you would definitely die. Meng Luotian left the martial arena in a sorry state. If you don't have the strength, then don't talk big. Kong Shinmu snorted coldly and returned to the spectator stand. To Kong Shinmu, Meng Cho could be considered the strongest opponent in this clan martial competition. He was the biggest threat to him, but he had already made preparations for this. If he were to meet him in the finals, he would definitely fight with all his might. After all, in the finals, everyone only had one chance. Meng Luotian collapsed. Under Kong Shinmu's pressure, he had no choice but to admit defeat. It had to be said that this situation allowed the Jiang clan to vent their anger. Who asked Meng Luotian to constantly ridicule the Jiang clan yesterday? However, this was done on behalf of Kong Shinmu. It changed their impression of Kong Shinmu once again. Without a doubt, Kong Shinmu's position in the hearts of the Jiang clan was getting higher and higher. After all, Not everyone had a death grudge with Kong Shinmu. Many of them were hostile towards Kong Shinmu only because of Jiang Rong's instigation. Now they realized that Kong Shinmu did not forget his roots like Jiang Rong said. He still cared about the Jiang clan. At least, when facing Meng Luotian, Kong Shinmu represented the Jiang clan in the battle. Meng Luotian was not considered strong, but in the Jiang clan, besides Kong Shinmu, no one else could defeat Meng Luotian. In the past 3 years, Kong Shinmu had awakened as a dragon warrior, becoming the strongest in the Jiang clan. In the past 2 years, there was not a single Sky Dragon blood essence inheritor, causing the overall strength of the Jiang clan to become extremely weak. However, the Jiang clan still could not understand. This kid, Kong Shinmu, had only obtained the mortal dragon's blood essence. How could he break through and transform into the Sky Dragon's blood essence? This situation was simply too unimaginable. When he transformed from a mortal dragon to a true dragon, it was in the Jiang clan. Then, Jiang Rong thought of ways to deal with Kong Shinmu, forcing him to leave the Jiang clan. Now, he had transformed from a true dragon to a sky dragon, and apparently obtained a dragon aura crystal. His luck was too heaven-defying. Meng Luotian had fallen in the battle with Kong Shinmu, causing the Meng tribal clan to glare angrily at Kong Shinmu. Especially the strongest, Meng Chou. His eyes were practically spitting fire. Although Meng Luotian's strength was not strong, if not for Kong Shinmu, he could have advanced to the finals, giving the Meng tribal clan a few more points. It had to be known that the Meng tribal clan and the Zong tribal clan's points were about the same. It was very likely that the difference between first and second place would be just a little. Meng Chou stared angrily at Kong Shinmu. From the shape of his mouth, it seemed like he was saying, "During the finals, I will not forgive you." Facing Meng Chou's threat, Kong Shinmu did not take it to heart. Recently, he had been preparing to deal with Meng Chou and Zong Feng, who were the strongest in the clan tournament. However, the others were worried about Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu, you must be careful during the finals. This Meng Chou has yet to show his true strength. Jiang Yuaning nervously reminded Kong Shinmu, if he were to use his full strength, no one knows how strong he will be. You must not be careless, or you will be instantly killed by him. Kong Shinmu nodded his head. Meng Chou had mastered the power of a giant rock. His explosive power would be extremely terrifying. Regarding this, Kong Shinmu had made ample preparations. He had constantly practiced using the halberd of the Heavenly Saint, mainly because he was getting more and more familiar with its defensive methods. As long as he could withstand the first round of explosive power from his opponent, the outcome would be easy to determine. The first wave of attacks was the most difficult for Kong Shinmu. As long as he could withstand it, there was no need to worry about the rest. With the end of the day's semi-finals, the final 20 contestants were finally decided. Kong Shinmu was naturally one of them. Apart from him, there were also Meng Chou, Zong Feng, Ji Yuan. These were the inheritors of the Heavenly Dragon's blood at the 4th level of the God Martial Realm. The remaining 9 were the inheritors of the Heavenly Dragon's blood at the 3rd level of the God Martial Realm. Zhou Linyun was one of them. His goal was to be in the top 10, but now it seemed like he did not have much hope. After all, everyone had the same cultivation level as him. There were also 3 inheritors of the Heavenly Dragon's blood at the 6th level of the God Martial Realm. Chapter 3962. 2 people from the Ji tribe were selected. One was Ji Yuan, who was at the 4th level of the God Martial Realm, and the other was Ji Yefeng, who was at the 3rd level of the God Martial Realm. She was a woman who was nearly 30 years old. She was a dragon warrior who had awakened in the Ji tribe last year. Her overall strength was also very good. After a night's rest, the major clans finally ushered in the most important final of the clan tournament. The rules of the final were not the same as before. The first round of the finals was the same as before. 10 out of the 20 finalists could advance, and the defeated ones would fall to the 11th to 20th place, after which the specific ranking would be decided. The top 10 would compete again, and after the top 5 were decided, the top 5 would fight against each other, and the final ranking would be decided according to the number of wins. Under such rules, no matter what opponent Kong Shinmu encountered, he could not retreat. He had to defeat his opponent, otherwise, once he failed, his ranking would never rise. The most important round of drawing lots now begins. The drawing of lots for the first round of the finals began. Kong Shinmu went on stage and drew lots with the other 19 powerful genius dragon warriors. Soon, he knew his opponent in the first round. The woman of the Ji tribe, Ji Yefeng. Ji Yefeng could be considered as Ji Yeshuan's aunt, but compared to Ji Yeshuan, Ji Yefeng's strength was much weaker. Ji Yeshuan's talent was much higher than that of her aunt. Little aunt, I didn't expect you to meet this Kong Shinmu in the first round. Do your best. Ji Yeshuan was a little surprised, and said lightly to Ji Yefeng. Well, I'll go meet this kid. Ji Yefeng's face had a dignified expression. Qiu Linyun, who had the same cultivation as her, had met Kong Shinmu in the semi-finals, and was forced to admit defeat by Kong Shinmu. This made her very curious about Kong Shinmu's strength. She felt that she might not be a match for Kong Shinmu, but no matter how she thought about it, she still found it hard to believe. It should be known that Kong Shinmu was only at the first level of the divine martial arts realm, and he was only relying on that dragon-grade dragon weapon, right? My innate talent is the power of moonlight. If Kong Shinmu's innate talent is as rumored, he shouldn't have a strong defense against the power of moonlight. Ji Yefeng walked onto the stage. The finals of the clan martial competition would only be held once. After all, this was already the final competition of the entire clan martial competition. There were only a total of 10 matches in the first round, so there was no need for them to be held at the same time. Kong Shinmu watched as Ji Yefeng walked onto the martial arts arena, but his mood did not fluctuate too much. He only thought of Ji Yeshuan and glanced at the little girl in the spectator stands. Realizing that she was also looking at him, he smiled at her. Ji Yeshuan had once saved Kong Shinmu, and gave him the Qitian spirit grass, which allowed him to quickly raise his martial arts cultivation by 1 level. It was of great significance to his growth. If not for his 2 coincidental encounters with Ji Yeshuan, Kong Shinmu would not have reached this step. Even when the Jiang clan had just awakened as a dragon warrior, he would have died at the hands of the demon beasts. The first round of the clan martial competition, the first match, the Jiang clan's Kong Shinmu versus the Ji clan's Ji Yefeng. Begin. With the announcer's announcement, both sides transformed into their divine dragon bodies. Their 100 Zhonglong bodies soared in the air. Moonlight Divine Dragon. Ji Yefeng's body was blooming with bright moonlight. The light blue splendor covered the entire martial arts arena. It looked very beautiful, but within the moonlight, there was a hidden murderous intent. Falling Moon Killing Dragon Mark. A 4th-grade dragon martial technique that had been cultivated to the dragon grade burst out from her divine dragon body. A crescent moon of moonlight swept towards the black dragon body of Kong Shinmu. Magic Crystal. Halberd of Heavenly Saint. Kong Shinmu casually used 2 defensive methods, then flew straight into the sky. Soon, he collided with the moonlight dragon mark. And Kong Shinmu felt a strong impact from his opponent's attack. Although it was unable to injure him, it sent his divine dragon body flying far away. In this situation, it was difficult for him to even approach his opponent. Dragon Mark Moonlight Net. Ji Yefeng did not hesitate. From afar, she released her moonlight talent power, forming a huge moonlight net that fell towards Kong Shinmu. In the next moment, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was entangled by his opponent's moonlight net. This moonlight net actually contained some kind of sealing power. It sealed the devouring power in Kong Shinmu's body. Amazing. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. He had never encountered such a method before. It was actually able to seal the talent power in his body. In this way, he could not use his talent power to devour his opponent's power. He had lost the biggest advantage that he had always relied on in battle. But fortunately, his battle power now did not rely solely on his devouring power. Halberd of Heavenly Saint. Break. The next moment, the golden light on his body shone brightly. Resplendent holy light erupted and turned into golden halberds. In an instant, the moonlight net on his body was broken. Unfortunately, even if the moonlight net was broken, there was still a sealing power left in his body. This sealing power of the moonlight made it impossible for him to use the devouring power for a while. As if seeing that her trick had succeeded, Ji Yefeng let out a loud dragon roar. The moonlight around her body condensed into countless sword rays. Accompanied by her divine dragon body, they flew towards Kong Shinmu like raindrops. Magic Crystal. Although Kong Shinmu could not use his talent power, The magic crystal was a body-tempering dragon-type martial skill. It was a means to fuse with his divine dragon body, so he could use it at any time. A purple magic crystal appeared on the surface of his body, and it was protected by the golden light of the Heavenly Saint's halberd. Kill! A small part of the Heavenly Saint's halberd's power turned into a golden halberd and flew towards Ji Yefeng's moonlight divine dragon. Both sides collided in mid-air with a loud bang. A terrifying power surged out in an instant, pushing both sides far back. Many of the purple magic crystals on Kong Shinmu's body were destroyed, but the moonlight defensive barrier on the moonlight divine dragon's body also suffered heavy damage. It was basically impossible to maintain it for much longer. Dragon-grade dragon weapon, it lives up to its reputation. Ji Yefeng felt the power of the Heavenly Saint's halberd, and her heart trembled. This was because Kong Shinmu's devouring power was sealed. If Kong Shinmu could use his devouring power, she would have been injured by now. Dragon Scar Moonlight Net. Ji Yefeng continued to use this move. This was her strongest method to seal the opponent's talent power. Many times, she could rely on this move to win by surprise. But after Kong Shinmu suffered a loss once, he naturally would not fall for this trick again. When that huge moonlight net swept over, his pitch-black body of the divine dragon suddenly swayed, and the movement technique of the void-piercing dragon shadow was displayed. He instantly flew away from his original position, and narrowly dodged the opponent's moonlight net. Chapter 3963. At this time, Ji Yefeng also sensed that something was wrong. This was because he was very clear about the time he could seal the innate ability. After the dragon's car moonlight net was shattered, the sealing power could only last for a short period of time in the opponent's body. Now that he had failed to seal the second giant net, the devouring power in Jiang Shenwu's body must have begun to recover. Falling Moon Slaying Dragon Scar. Ji Yefeng snorted coldly. Her body was shrouded in moonlight. Once again, countless murderous moonlight saber lights descended from the sky. They condensed and appeared on the battleground, heading towards Jiang Shenwu. Magic Crystal. The purple magic crystal continued to condense on the surface of Kong Shinmu's body, and he continued to use the sky-piercing dragon shadow, trying his best to avoid the opponent's attacks. Soon, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was bombarded to the edge of the martial arts arena. Even if he kept dodging the opponent's attacks, he still couldn't avoid all of them, because the opponent's dragon martial arts were too dense. Once hit, his whole divine dragon body would lose balance and be pushed back. Although this kind of attack doesn't have any killing power, it is annoying. In a situation where I can't get close to the opponent, I can only be played to death. Kong Shinmu thought. Although Ji Yefeng's strength was only at the third level of the divine martial realm, she had many tricks up her sleeves. Even when facing Kong Shinmu, she had a way to hold him down for a long time, and if she was not careful, she could even defeat Kong Shinmu. In particular, there was a giant net mixed in the attack just now. Taking advantage of the opportunity when Kong Shinmu couldn't dodge, it once again enveloped Kong Shinmu, making him unable to use his devouring power again. This made Kong Shinmu extremely impatient. Halberd of the Heavenly Saint, kill! Kong Shinmu couldn't use his talent power, so he couldn't use the Dragon Shadow Dragon Tooth transformation. If he wanted to defeat the opponent, he could only rely on the Halberd of the Heavenly Saint. The Halberd of the Heavenly Saint was ever-changing in his hands. At this moment, it turned into a giant golden halberd, instantly piercing the sky, rushing towards Ji Yefeng's moonlight divine dragon. Golden holy light illuminated the entire area. Countless moonlight saber rays condensed once again, but as soon as these saber rays came into contact with the giant golden halberd, they were all deflected and dispersed. They could no longer repel Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. As the distance between the two got closer and closer, the Heavenly Saint halberd in Kong Shinmu's hand burst out with unparalleled power, even exceeding the destructive power of other dragon warriors. Even though his talent was sealed, he could still fight Ji Yefeng head-on with just the halberd of the Heavenly Saint. In the next moment, Kong Shinmu wielded the Heavenly Saint's halberd and his black dragon body slammed into Ji Yefeng's moonlight divine dragon. Roaring Sky Dragon Claw. This dragon martial technique used the body of a divine dragon and did not require the use of talent. Kong Shinmu was unable to use the Shadow Dragon Fong transformation, so he could only use this move. The Heavenly Saint's halberd, accompanied by the divine dragon's claw, smashed Ji Yefeng's moonlight divine dragon onto the martial arena. The huge dragon crashed down. What followed was an extremely brutal melee. Kong Shinmu's purple demonic crystal constantly emerged from the surface of his dragon body, resisting the moonlight saber rays condensed by Ji Yefeng. When Jiang Shenwu got close to the other party, he was no longer pushed back by the other party. His dragon claws gripped tightly onto the other party, and the heavenly saint halberd condensed into a long golden halberd behind him, gleaming with golden holy light. Kill! The golden halberd slammed down, piercing several holes in the moonlight divine dragon's body. Dragon blood flowed out from the wounds. If Kong Shinmu could use his devouring power, he could very quickly kill Ji Yefeng. Unfortunately, he could not use his devouring power at the moment. Although he injured his opponent, it was not fatal. Gentle moonlight touch. Ji Yefeng's innate moonlight power flickered, covering the entire body of her moonlight divine dragon, unexpectedly healing her injuries. The flowing dragon blood also completely solidified, and the wounds quickly scabbed. This is a healing dragon martial skill. Kong Shinmu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Without a doubt, Ji Yefeng's comprehensive combat ability was far higher than those guys he met before the clan tournament. At least, she was the one who made him feel the most pressure so far. Whether it was the moonlight sealing power or the gentle moonlight touch, both made him feel difficult to deal with. In this case, I must kill her in one strike. Kong Shinmu linked his devouring power. He was not afraid of getting injured, and the same was true for Ji Yefeng. If he wanted to kill his opponent, he must at least seriously injure her. Heavenly Saint's halberd again. A golden halberd condensed in mid-air, shining with boundless killing intent. Finally, it was accompanied by a bit of pitch-black devouring power. Although the devouring power could not be used much, his opponent's moonlight sealing power was weakening. Taking advantage of the fact that his opponent was still using the healing moonlight touch dragon martial skill, Kong Shinmu's attack descended once again. Obviously, Kong Shinmu's attack was extremely strong, and Ji Yefeng had no way to resist it. The condensed moonlight defensive barrier was instantly destroyed. Many wounds appeared on the moonlight divine dragon's body, which made Ji Yefeng's heart sink. Obviously, even without the devouring power, Kong Shinmu had the strength to defeat her. Moreover, she could not break through Kong Shinmu's defense. There was no point in continuing this kind of battle. She used all her strength, but was still unable to injure Kong Shinmu. How could she hope to defeat Kong Shinmu? I admit defeat. Ji Yefeng endured the pain and released her dragon's roar. Finally, she had no choice but to admit defeat. Kong Shinmu's attack was not too strong, and she could still resist it. However, his defense was too terrifying. She was originally a defensive type, but compared to Kong Shinmu, it was not worth mentioning at all. Obviously, Kong Shinmu's dragon body refining martial skill was too powerful. Under the cover of the purple magic crystal, his opponent could not attack at all. There was no way to deal with Kong Shinmu's sturdy defense. How could he cultivate the dragon body refining martial skill to such a level? How much suffering had Kong Shinmu suffered to comprehend the dragon-grade dragon body refining martial skill? Furthermore, just how many resources did he use to be able to continuously recover after being injured and thus improve his body refining dragon martial technique? Ji Yefeng did not dare to imagine. Enter the top 10. After Kong Shinmu came down from the arena, he became more and more excited about the next battle. His eyes flashed with confidence, but also a little more vigilant. Even Ji Yefeng, who was at the third level of the god martial arts realm, could suppress him and force him into such a difficult battle. If Zhang Feng, Meng Chou, Ji Yuan, and the others also had similar control methods, it would not be a good sign for Kong Shinmu. Of course, this was not enough to make Kong Shinmu retreat. Chapter 3964. After Kong Shinmu left the stage, it was time for the Meng tribe's strongest warrior, Meng Chou, to fight against Qiu Linyun of the Qiu tribe. This made Qiu Linyun so depressed that he wanted to die. Previously, when he encountered Jiang Shenwu in the semi-finals, he was already very depressed. He did not expect that he would encounter Meng Chou directly. However, at this time, it was impossible to admit defeat. No matter what, he had to show his strength. Besides, Qiu Linyun also had a hidden trump card. Now that he was facing Meng Chou, he could try it without fear. If he still could not deal with Meng Qiu, then there was nothing he could do. On the battle stage, everyone was watching the battle between Qiu Linyun and Meng Qiu. Previously, Meng Qiu had not used his true strength, but now that he was facing Qiu Linyun, he might need to use some tricks to win. Come on! The burly Meng Qiu stood on the battle stage and hooked his finger at Qiu Linyun. To the Meng tribe, the Qiu tribe was nothing. Even if Qiu Linyun was the strongest in the Qiu tribe, in Meng Qiu's eyes, he was nothing. I know I will lose in the end, but I still want to try. Qiu Linyun's eyes showed a hint of stubbornness. He suddenly transformed into a green divine dragon, and the power of the tree ancestor condensed into a giant tree. It was different from the battle with Kong Xinmu. At this moment, the power of the tree ancestor did not directly attack Meng Qiu, but gathered more and more. Soon, the entire battle stage was condensed into a primeval forest. Then, these giant trees connected with each other, and the heaven and earth spiritual qi circulated in a very special way. This is an array. The crowd was in an uproar. Qiu Linyun had used the power of the tree ancestor to set up a dense forest array on the battle stage. This was unbelievable. Tree Ancestor Secret Map Array. The green divine dragon that Qiu Linyun had transformed into soared above the dense forest, his eyes filled with satisfaction. Although it hadn't been long, the tree school's secret map array he had laid down was already quite powerful. Even if it was used to deal with Kong Xinmu, he was confident that he could completely trap Kong Xinmu within it, completely exhausting Kong Xinmu's strength, and then defeat him. It was just that when he fought against Kong Xinmu, he felt that there was no need to use this trump card, so he did not use it. In any case, he would be able to enter the finals. Sadly, he encountered Meng Qiu in the first match of the finals. That was like a wake-up call for him. The tree sect's secret map formation could continuously absorb the power of the dragon martial artists trapped within, turning them into nutrients for the formation, making it stronger and stronger. This was somewhat similar to Kong Xinmu's devouring power. But Qiu Linyun thought that this formation might not be able to trap Meng Qiu. Although the formation could increase the power of the Tree Master's talent by 20 to 30%, and he felt that it was more than enough to deal with people like Kong Xinmu, but Meng Qiu was the inheritor of the Sky Dragon Essence blood of the 4th level of the Divine Martial Realm. Kong Xinmu, who was watching from the spectator stands, became even more vigilant. Qiu Linyun was using this method now, which was obviously a trump card that he might have kept in reserve when he fought against him before. From this, it could be seen that many experts must have their own trump cards that they wanted to use in the finals. The following battle would probably not be as easy as imagined. Tree Sect Secret Map Array, activate. On the battle stage, Qiu Linyun's hands formed a seal, and he felt that in the entire forest formation, countless heaven and earth spiritual qi floated and condensed, and instantly began to absorb Meng Qiu's power. Ever since the Tree Sect Secret Map Array was activated, Meng Qiu had not made a move, which made everyone wonder how Meng Qiu would deal with it. But soon, when Qiu Linyun wanted to speed up the absorption of power by the Tree Sect Secret Map Array, suddenly a feeling of the earth shaking and mountains shaking erupted from the battle stage, and countless giant rocks condensed on the ground of the entire battle stage. Giant rock power. Meng Qiu's talent suddenly burst out. Even though his strength was greatly restricted in the formation, the eruption of his innate talent was still shocking. Countless giant rocks appeared from the Tree Sect Secret Map Array, and then condensed into a giant rock giant. With one punch, it actually shattered half of the Tree Sect Secret Map Array. Then, the giant rock giant turned into a giant divine dragon. It turned out that this was Meng Qiu's original body, soaring out of the dense forest of the secret map array with a roar. The rock dragon suddenly rushed up from below, and with a swing of its dragon tail, it smashed Qiu Linyun, who had transformed into a giant green divine dragon, into the ground, into the scattered forest. Boom! With a loud bang, Qiu Linyun's entire divine dragon landed heavily on the ground. Even his Tree Sect secret map array could not be maintained intact. Qiu Linyun, who had transformed into a divine dragon, spat out a mouthful of blood. I admit defeat. Helplessness hung on his face, and he shook his head to show that he admitted defeat. The difference between the two was too great. Originally, he thought that he could use the Tree Sect secret map array to fight Meng Qiu, but now he realized that the difference between the two was too great. No wonder Kong Xinmu chose to admit defeat against Zhang Feng. Now it seems that this was an extremely wise choice. Otherwise, no matter how hard he tried, he would not be a match for them. Qiu Linyun thought to himself as he left the battle stage dejectedly. Meng Qiu no longer had any interest in Kong Xinmu. After all, Kong Xinmu had already admitted defeat against Zhang Feng, so at this time, he looked directly at Zhang Feng on the battle stage. His next greatest opponent was Zhang Feng. Until now, both sides had their trump cards, and even he was not confident that he could beat Zhang Feng. But he believed that he was the strongest. No matter who stood in front of him, he would trample his opponent under his feet. Next, it was Ji tribe's Ji Yuan's turn to fight against another tribe Sky Dragon Blood Inheritance Dragon Warrior of the Third God Martial Realm. This battle was not too exciting, because Ji Yuan easily defeated his opponent, and successfully advanced to the next round. In fact, among the Dragon Warriors of the Fourth God Martial Realm, Meng Qiu and Zhang Feng were recognized as the strongest, but the others could not be underestimated, especially Ji Yuan, who had a mysterious aura about him that people could not fathom. In all the previous battles, Ji Yuan had easily defeated his opponent. His power was the talent power of the stars, but until now, no one had seen him use too much of his talent power. It was extremely mysterious. Meng Qiu, Zhang Feng, Ji Yuan were the opponents that Kong Xinmu valued the most. These three would most likely go all the way to the end, and the top 5 were almost certain. The first round of the finals continued, and the top 10 were decided. The battles were extremely intense. There were also Sky Dragon Warriors of the Fourth God Martial Realm fighting against each other. This kind of battle was extremely tragic. Chapter 3965. After the 10 battles had all ended, the top 10 of the entire clan martial competition had finally been decided. Among them, there were 5 inheritors of the Sky Dragon Essence Blood at the 4th level of the God Martial Realm, 2 inheritors of the Sky Dragon Essence Blood at the 3rd level of the God Martial Realm, and 1 inheritor of the True Dragon Essence Blood at the 6th level of the God Martial Realm. Finally, there was Kong Xinmu, who had the lowest cultivation among the group. However, no one dared to underestimate Kong Xinmu. Just from the way Kong Xinmu easily defeated Ji Yefeng, it could be seen that Kong Xinmu's fighting strength was definitely not weak. Even if he was not as strong as Zhang Feng and Meng Qiu, he could still fight against the others. Of course before, no one thought that Kong Xinmu would be able to get first place, and now, no one thought so. I bet that Kong Xinmu will not make it to the top 5 in the second round of the finals. That's right, those who can enter the top 10 are all geniuses of the big clans. I'm afraid that Kong Xinmu's strength is at the bottom of the 10. It doesn't make sense that the sacred dragon lord Shi Tao would take a fancy to such a kid. Without that dragon-level dragon weapon, this kid would definitely not be able to reach this stage. Many people were very jealous of Kong Xinmu, mainly because he was favored by the sacred dragon Shi Tao. Not only did he give Kong Xinmu a dragon-level dragon weapon, he also wanted to marry his daughter to Kong Xinmu. This kind of treatment was so good that it made people extremely jealous. However, they did not know that all of this was obtained by Kong Xinmu himself. The dragon-level dragon weapon was obtained by him after he defeated Xia Tianhan in a bet with the sacred dragon Xia Yan. As for his relationship with Shi Yueying, this matter was still very far away. At present, Kong Xinmu did not even consider it. The opponent for the top 5 in the second round is the Gu clan's Gu Physique Peak. Very quickly, their opponents were drawn. Kong Xinmu's opponent was a genius expert from the Gu clan, Gu Physique Peak. As for this person, Kong Xinmu had observed him before and knew that his main technique was the body-tempering dragon-type martial technique. Among the 17 tribes in the dragon prison domain, the Gu tribe was the only tribe that specialized in body-refining dragon martial skills. They attached great importance to body-refining dragon martial skills. Basically, every dragon warrior would cultivate some kind of body-refining dragon martial skill. This Gu Taifeng was an expert who practiced body-refining and dragon-like martial arts techniques. The defense of his divine dragon body was extremely terrifying. It was not inferior to Kong Xinmu's demonic crystal. Both of them are body refinement experts, and Ancient Body Peak is at the 4th level of the divine martial realm, which is 3 levels higher than Kong Xinmu's. The difference in talent is too great. I'm afraid that Kong Xinmu will definitely lose this battle. Many people couldn't help but think like this when they found out about the result of the draw. However, Kong Xinmu didn't think so. It's impossible for him to defeat me with just a body-refining dragon martial skill. In that case, he can use the devouring power to gradually weaken Gu Physique Peak, making him weaker and weaker. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. His strongest point was not his defense, but his devouring talent. Moreover, Gu Physique Peak's talent was the earth element's defense, which was very easy for Kong Shinmu to deal with. After all, he had devoured the giant rock bear's giant rock force, so he had enough resistance against the earth element's talent. Moreover, in this battle, he might be able to devour Gu Physique Peak's talent and continue to increase his resistance against the giant rock force, so that he would be more confident when he faced Meng Chou in the future. When Meng Chou destroyed the Tree Sect's secret array with one move, the strength he displayed was too terrifying. In his current state, it would be difficult for Kong Shinmu to withstand an all-out attack from Meng Chou. It just so happened that Gu Physique Peak could help him improve further. As usual, Kong Shinmu was the first to go up. The battle to advance to the top 5 had already attracted a lot of people to watch the battle, especially since this battle was very likely to be Kong Shinmu's last battle. Since the beginning of the clan martial competition, Jiang Shenwu had already given everyone too much shock, and it was very likely that this shock would end in this battle. Thus, countless people held their breaths as they watched intently, not wanting to miss even the slightest detail of this battle. Gu Physique Peak's figure was very well proportioned, and he seemed to be full of strength. With a firm expression, he walked up the martial arena and cupped his fists towards Kong Shinmu. His entire person became solemn, waiting for the battle to begin. Among the 17 clans, the Gu clan's overall strength was ranked in the middle. Gu Physique Peak was not satisfied with being able to enter the top 10 of the clan martial competition. He still wanted to go one step further. If he could enter the top 5, that would be great. In fact, Gu Physique Peak was secretly delighted. This was because in the battle to advance to the top 5, if his opponent was someone else, his chances of winning wouldn't be high. However, in his opinion, it was much better to fight against Kong Shinmu. At the very least, Kong Shinmu should have already displayed all of his strength. As for the others, they were still hiding their trump cards. Come! As the host announced the start of the battle, Gu Physique Peak suddenly activated the divine dragon blood in his body. An ancient rock dragon roared out. Its body was more than 120 meters long, and it was even larger than an ordinary heavenly dragon blood essence. Although it didn't represent strength, the larger the divine dragon's body, the stronger the physical strength. For example, a heavenly dragon was compared to a true dragon. This was going to be a fierce hand-to-hand battle. Kong Shinmu transformed into a pitch-black divine dragon and soared into the sky, directly heading towards Gu Physique Peak. Both divine dragon bodies intertwined in mid-air, and a terrifying power erupted in that instant. Both divine dragon bodies were very strong, and both of them had cultivated body-tempering dragon martial techniques. Moreover, Gu Physique Peak's 5th grade body-tempering dragon martial technique had been cultivated to the dragon level after 3 years of accumulation. In terms of defense, it was not much weaker than Kong Shinmu's demonic crystal. After all, his martial arts cultivation was much stronger than Kong Shinmu's. So powerful! I have to borrow the power of the Heavenly Saint's halberd to fight him to a draw. As soon as Kong Shinmu clashed with his opponent, his heart shuddered. He knew that Gu Physique Peak was definitely very strong. Although his chances of winning against Gu Physique Peak weren't small, his opponent might also have a trump card. Kong Shinmu braced himself. This was the first time he was fighting against a heavenly dragon blood essence inheritor at the 4th level of the divine martial realm, so he couldn't be underestimated. The ancient rock dragon's body was covered in a layer of dark gray rock, and when it collided with Kong Shinmu, it didn't move at all. It was as sturdy as Mount Tai, and not even gravel fell. Moreover, under the protection of this layer of dark gray rock, Kong Shinmu's devouring power was unable to devour the opponent's power. This was a defensive method cultivated by the opponent's body-tempering dragon martial technique, and not something condensed from the opponent's talent. Let's try an all-out attack first. Shadow Dragon Fong Transformation. Jiang Shenwu condensed the Shadow Dragon Fong from head to toe, mixed with the power of the Heavenly Saint's halberd, and with the golden talent power, he slammed into the dark gray rock defense of his opponent. In the next moment, an astonishing power erupted. Chapter 3966. Too difficult to deal with. Kong Shinmu couldn't help but think that if this continued, The energy in his body would be exhausted before his opponent. One must know that his opponent's cultivation was 3 levels higher than Kong Shinmu. Such a stalemate wasn't what Kong Shinmu wanted to see. Since that's the case, I'll just keep attacking. Phantom Dragon Fong Transformation. Kong Shinmu's entire body was wrapped in purple magic crystals. The Heavenly Saint's halberd flickered with a dazzling golden radiance. Accompanied by countless phantom dragon fangs, he swept towards the ancient rock dragon that Gu Taifeng had transformed into. Another round of attacks fell, but Gu Taifeng did not budge at all. The ancient rock dragon quickly flew over and collided with Jiang Shenwu's attacks. Its innate talent power rapidly condensed and spread on the ancient rock dragon's body, almost covering its entire body like a huge mountain. The huge mountain crashed down. Kong Shinmu's entire divine dragon body was heavily pressed down by his opponent, crashing onto the martial stage. His entire body was in pain from the impact, but at this time, he found an opportunity. Gu Taifeng condensed his innate energy into a huge rock and covered the surface of his body. This was a great opportunity for Kong Shinmu, because he could devour the innate energy. Devour. Kong Shinmu's pitch-black devouring force emerged from the surface and quickly covered the ancient rock dragon's body, devouring the innate energy. Dang! Gu Taifeng didn't care. His entire body burst out with terrifying dragon strength, and his dragon claw tore at Kong Shinmu. It was actually an offensive dragon martial skill similar to the Roaring Sky Dragon Claw. It didn't need to rely on the innate energy to burst out with great power. The purple magic crystal on Kong Shinmu's body was quickly torn apart by the dragon claw. Because there was no innate energy to be devoured, it couldn't quickly condense again. Both sides tore each other apart, and the most intense hand-to-hand battle in the entire clan tournament appeared. Both of them had a lot of tricks up their sleeves. If one were to observe carefully, Kong Shinmu had no way to deal with Gu Taifeng. Meanwhile, Kong Shinmu's defenses were constantly being broken by his opponent's ferocious attacks. Kong Shinmu didn't even have the time to deploy a new set of defenses. Not long after the battle began, Kong Shinmu was already pressed to the ground and heavily attacked. It seemed that he had no strength to fight back. Even if this ancient physique peak doesn't suddenly erupt with power, I can only fail if I keep suppressing it like this. Most importantly, he didn't even use his innate ability. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Although he was at an absolute disadvantage, he was still able to remain calm. This battle was definitely going to be a protracted one, and a momentary loss was not enough to determine the outcome. He had to find his opponent's flaws in order to defeat Gu Taifeng. Otherwise, Kong Shinmu's attacks would be useless against Gu Taifeng. Phantom Dragon Tooth Transformation. Halberd of Heavenly Saint. Kong Shinmu switched from defense to offense. Countless phantom dragon teeth and golden halberd landed on the ancient rock dragon's body in their strongest state. Although they weren't able to break through its defense, they were still able to knock its body away. The pitch-black divine dragon took the opportunity to soar into the sky. Then, the devouring power on its body condensed into a pitch-black phantom dragon tooth and once again descended from the sky. It's useless. Gu Taifeng sneered. The ancient rock dragon suddenly let out a resounding dragon roar towards the sky. The sound wave actually shook Kong Shinmu's phantom dragon tooth, causing it to tilt and not land on his body. This sound wave attack dragon martial skill caused many spectators to exclaim in admiration. Look, this Kong Shinmu isn't Gu Taifeng's opponent at all. The disparity is too great. That's right. A dragon roar was enough to make his attack deviate, rendering it ineffective. It's impossible for him to defeat Gu Taifeng. In the direction of the Shi clan's residence, Shi Yueying was also frowning. She had a better understanding of Kong Shinmu, but she still couldn't think of a way to defeat a stubborn opponent like Gu Taifeng. Again, Kong Shinmu wasn't discouraged. He continued to use his talent power to condense the phantom dragon tooth transformation. Sharp attacks rained down from the sky. The ancient rock dragon roared and directly broke through the countless phantom dragon teeth, completely ignoring their destructive power. Although there were some cracks on the ancient rock dragon's defensive barrier, it didn't care at all. With a thought, he used his talent power to condense it again, becoming indestructible. Kong Shinmu's talent power had devoured a bit of Gu Taifeng's power, but it wasn't much to Gu Taifeng. At the very least, Gu Taifeng would have to devour 100 times more power before he would feel anything. Puff puff. The ancient rock dragon's claws grabbed the black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into. Then with great force, it threw Kong Shinmu to the ground. Both sides weren't on the same level. After all, there was a gap in their cultivation. Kong Shinmu was thrown to the ground, but he didn't suffer any injuries. He just looked a little ugly. The surface of his divine dragon body flickered with a golden light. The heavenly saint's halberd turned into a giant halberd and fiercely struck at the ancient rock dragon. Break! Gu Tifeng roared and charged at the black dragon on the ground, directly smashing through the halberd's halberd light. However, from the light of the heavenly saint's halberd, countless pitch-black shadow dragon fangs burst out and shattered in an instant. Caught off guard, the ancient rock dragon was covered in fangs. The heavenly saint's halberd and phantom dragon teeth's double attack, the latter coming so suddenly that it caught Gu Tifeng off guard. Finally, the ancient rock dragon's defense started to weaken. Void-piercing dragon shadow. Heavenly saint's halberd. Phantom dragon teeth. Kong Shinmu took the opportunity to once again burst out with his strongest attack. Under the continuous attacks, a part of the ancient rock dragon's defense finally broke. When the other party's innate energy surged out and continued to condense into a defensive barrier, Kong Shinmu's devouring power had already arrived, rapidly devouring the innate energy. Both sides specialized in body-tempering dragon martial skills. Their divine dragon bodies were very tough and not easy to defeat. But Kong Shinmu had the advantage of devouring power. The other party's defense was strong, but Kong Shinmu's attacks weren't weak either. With the heavenly saint's halberd and a grade 3 dragon martial skill, even if the first attack didn't work, a few more attacks would be enough to break the other party's defense. Even if he couldn't injure the other party, it didn't matter as long as the other party used their innate energy to replenish their defense. As long as Kong Shinmu could devour the other party's innate energy, he would be able to replenish his exhausted energy. In this way, he would be able to gradually turn the situation around. As long as he continued to devour the other party's innate energy, it would be impossible for him to be the first one to exhaust his energy. This was a brutal melee, but it was also a battle of attrition. Chapter 3967. The situation seemed to be getting more and more unfavorable for Jiang Shenwu. Anyone could tell that Kong Shinmu was unable to devour too much of Gu Physique Peak's talent power, and his attacks were unable to break through Gu Physique Peak's defense. Gu Physique Peak was basically invincible. On the other hand, Kong Shinmu's strength was definitely not as abundant as Gu Physique Peak's. After all, there was a huge gap between their cultivation realms. If this continued, Kong Shinmu would soon exhaust all his strength and become a fish on the chopping board. However, they did not know that although Kong Shinmu had only devoured a small amount of his opponent's talent power, it was enough to replenish the strength he had exhausted. Shadow Dragon Fong Transformation. Kong Shinmu continued to attack, breaking through his opponent's defense. At this time, the purple demonic crystal on his body was completely destroyed by his opponent. The terrifying ancient rock power kept falling, causing many wounds on Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. Comparing the two's divine dragon bodies, Gu Physique Peak had the upper hand. After all, his cultivation was 3 levels higher than Kong Shinmu. However, at this time, Kong Shinmu had completely replenished his strength. On the other hand, the talent power that Gu Physique Peak used to replenish his ancient rock defense was all devoured by Kong Shinmu. He had no choice but to continue to use his talent power to deal with Kong Shinmu's attacks. He knew that he could not afford to be injured. Otherwise, the devouring power would invade his body and he would lose all his chances. Die! Gu Physique Peak's ancient rock dragon's eyes were filled with endless murderous intent. He constantly used his dragon claws to tear the black divine dragon's skin, causing the divine dragon's blood to flow out. If he could not devour his opponent's blood, flesh, and life essence, Kong Shinmu would not be able to recover. Now that he was injured and could not recover, he had to speed up his devouring speed. My resistance to the ancient rock power is getting stronger. Kong Shinmu sensed the changes in his body. As he continued to devour the energy of the ancient rock, his resistance against the innate ability of the earth element grew stronger. There was a shrewd look in his eyes. He didn't care about the jeers and mockery from the spectators. He persisted in his own way of fighting. Devouring power surged out continuously, devouring his opponent's innate ability even faster. Finally, The speed at which the opponent's innate ability surged out began to slow down. It was obvious that the opponent was having a hard time maintaining his defense. At this time, Kong Shinmu finally attacked with all his might. Halberd of the Heavenly Sage. Explode. Taking advantage of the fact that the other party was a little lax in his defense and wanted to strike the vital point of the black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into, the golden heavenly saint halberd suddenly erupted with unprecedented might. A giant halberd suddenly descended from the sky and instantly pierced through the defensive layer of the ancient body peaks, 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 ancient body peak was finally broken. Phantom Dragon Tooth Transformation. The countless shadow dragon fangs formed from the power of devouring finally found an opportunity to break through the other party's defenses and land on the other party's dark gray divine dragon body, bombarding it with attacks. The shadow dragon Fang bombarded the same spot repeatedly, and finally, a small wound appeared. Immediately after, the pitch-black devouring power invaded the other party's body and began to devour the other party's flesh and blood essence. This scene caused Gu Taifeng's eyes to bulge out of their sockets. His innate talent energy surged out continuously, forming a defensive barrier. However, Kong Shinmu's devouring force had already invaded his body. He could feel the devouring power wreaking havoc in his body, quickly eroding his most important dantian. Then, the power of the devouring power exploded and quickly devoured the energy around his dantian. All of the energy that was devoured flowed into Kong Shinmu's body. Although this consumed the devouring energy in Gu Ti Peak, it was enough for Kong Shinmu. The dantian is the source of a dragon martial artist's cultivation. If your dantian is damaged, your strength will plummet. Kong Shinmu's expression was stern as he continued to fight with the other party. As the devouring power took effect, the injury he had just suffered recovered immediately and was completely healed. As for Kong Shinmu, he continued to attack Gu Taifeng fiercely. Gu Taifeng was panicking. Although he had heard that Kong Shinmu's devouring power was very strong, he had never seen it for himself. Would he fail just now when he had only absorbed a little bit of it? He had been careless. He did not expect Kong Shinmu to concentrate so many shadow dragon fangs on one spot and devour his innate talent energy to weaken his defense. He only saw that Kong Shinmu's vital parts were about to be severely injured, but he neglected that his defense had been weakened. This caused his victory to be lost. He could only watch as Kong Shinmu's injuries recovered completely. The purple magic crystal once again covered the black dragon's body. As the devouring power exerted its power near his dantian, he felt a wave of weakness. Although the devouring power was quickly consumed, his strength had weakened a lot. His condition was far from what it had been before. Kong Shinmu heaved a sigh of relief. Because of that momentary mistake, Gu Taifeng fell into an irreversible disadvantage. Although he was 3 levels higher than Kong Shinmu, he could not exert his strength at all. His defense was stronger than Kong Shinmu's, and his attack was also stronger than Kong Shinmu's. However, that momentary mistake was enough for Kong Shinmu to seize the opportunity and weaken him with the devouring power. Gu Taifeng gradually fell into a disadvantage. There was no more suspense after that. The dragon warriors and the spectator stand also gradually noticed that Gu Taifeng seemed to be a completely different person from before. He had lost the ferocious and boundless aura from before. Gu Taifeng still wanted to continue attacking Kong Shinmu, but he was unable to pose any threat to Kong Shinmu. On the contrary, Kong Shinmu's continuous attacks caused Gu Taifeng's innate talent to be consumed faster and faster. He did not dare to relax at all, afraid that Kong Shinmu's devouring power would corrode his body again. Therefore, his innate talent energy continued to condense into a defensive layer. But this way, his energy consumption was much higher than Kong Shinmu's. Both sides fought in close combat. The Heavenly Saint's halberd flashed continuously, and the shadow dragon fangs rained down on Gu Taifeng like a torrential rain. Gu Taifeng's dark gray dragon body was shrouded by the shadow dragon fangs. When he realized that he did not have much innate talent energy left in his body, he was no longer a threat to Kong Shinmu. On the other hand, because Kong Shinmu was constantly devouring Gu Taifeng's innate talent energy, Kong Shinmu's resistance to this energy was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if the black dragon that Kong Shinmu had transformed into had become an insurmountable mountain in front of Gu Taifeng, firmly pressing down on him. Gu Taifeng's defense did not break. But he no longer had any energy left to continue fighting with Kong Shin-mu. I admit defeat. Chapter 3968. Following Gu Tiefeng's surrender, the dragon martial artists in the gladiatorial arena became excited. They did not expect that after such a long stalemate, Kong Shin-mu would win. This result was hard for many people to accept. After all, in their opinion, Kong Shin-mu would most likely be eliminated in this round. But the result was that even Gu Tiefeng, an expert of the 4th level of the God Martial Realm, had to admit defeat to Kong Shin-mu. From the outside, Gu Tiefeng did not seem to be at a disadvantage. But in fact, his inner strength was almost exhausted compared to Kong Shin-mu's. If he continued to fight, he would only die. There was no need to persist any longer. He might as well save his strength and fight the battles from 6th to 10th place. If he could get a good result in the battles from 6th to 10th place, it would also be good. Anyway, the points of the 5th and 6th place were not much different. If he continued to fight with Kong Shin-mu, it would not be fun if he got seriously injured. It was very likely that he would fall to 10th place. This was a result that Gu Tiefeng could not accept. Now that he admitted defeat, as long as he took a little rest, he could quickly recover and fight the next battle in his best condition. But his battle did not start so soon. Because it was still the battle for the top 5. In the next 4 battles, the top 4 of the remaining 5 would be born. The next 4 battles would decide the name list of the top 5. Everyone in the arena began to pay attention, especially Kong Shin-mu, Gu Tiefeng, and the other top 10. After all, this battle would decide who their next opponent would be. In the final top 5, everyone had to fight with the other 4. Finally, the final ranking of the top 5 would be decided by the total number of wins. Therefore, any one of the top 5 was very important. Meng Cho won. Zhang Feng won. Ji Yuan also won. The last one is really Meng Chong. Meng Chong was a genius dragon warrior of the Meng tribe, second only to Meng Cho. In terms of blood relations, he was Meng Chao's cousin. Both of them were heavenly dragon blood inheritors at the 4th stage of the divine martial realm. Moreover, both of them had awakened as dragon warriors 3 years ago. Other than Meng Cho, Meng Chong also played an important role in the clan martial competition. Kong Shin-mu had also paid attention to this person, and knew that this person had awakened the innate skill of the tornado. To Kong Shin-mu, the innate skill of the wind attribute was relatively easy to deal with. Previously, he had also devoured a lot of the power of the wind attribute profound beasts, so his resistance to this type of energy was not weak. Meng Cho, Meng Chong, Zhang Feng, Ji Yuan, and Kong Shin-mu. The clan martial competition had lasted until now, and the final 5 had finally been decided. These 5 people would fight against each other, and each person would have to fight against the other 4. In the end, the final ranking would be determined by the number of wins. If there was a situation where the number of wins was the same, it would be very easy to determine the ranking. After all, every 2 people would fight against each other, and whoever won would be ranked first. However, before the battle between the top 5, there would be a battle between the 6th to 10th place. The rules between them were the same as the top 5, and they would also fight against each other. A total of 10 battles would be able to determine the ranking of the top 5. Gu Fu Feng participated in the battle between the 6th to 10th place. Fortunately, he had stopped early and preserved his strength. In the following battles, he was able to handle them with ease. At least, compared to the other dragon warriors, his situation was much better. In the end, Gu Fu Feng won 4 and lost 1, becoming the 6th place. When the battle between the 6th to 10th place began, countless people's minds were already focused on the strength comparison of the top 5. Without a doubt, Meng Cho and Zhang Feng were recognized as the strongest, followed by Meng Chong and Ji Yuan. As for Kong Shin-mu, no one thought that he would be able to enter the top 5. This caused everyone to basically ignore Kong Shin-mu. In any case, Kong Shin-mu had previously forfeited and admitted defeat to Zhang Feng, so it seemed that he was definitely not a match for Zhang Feng and Meng Cho. As for Meng Chong and Ji Yuan, they seemed to be much stronger than Kong Shin-mu. After all, in comparison, Gu Fu Feng's explosive destructive power was indeed not good enough, so it was understandable that he was unable to deal with Kong Shin-mu. However, among the top 5, other than Kong Shin-mu, the other 4 all possessed extremely strong inherent skill, and their destructive power was extremely berserk. If Kong Shinmu were to fight against them, it was very likely that he would be severely injured and on the verge of death in a single move, or even directly lose his life. Now that the clan martial competition had been going on for so long, everyone had basically figured out what methods they had. It was the same for Kong Shinmu. If they wanted to kill Kong Shinmu, it was best to completely suppress him from the beginning and seriously injure him. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would turn defeat into victory. This kind of thing had happened in the clan martial competition before. However, no matter what, the top 5 exchanged glances with each other. The other 4 didn't cast their gazes on Kong Shinmu. In their eyes, Kong Shinmu was already not a match for them, and was definitely the weakest among the 5. Kong Shinmu didn't care about what others thought of him. He just calmly prepared for the next battle. In any case, Kong Shinmu had already devoured the inherent skill of these 4 guys. While he was preparing in the life and death arena, he had specially chosen the corresponding demon beasts to fight, all for the final moment of the clan martial competition. I never thought that he would actually be able to enter the top 5. In the Jiang clan, Jiang Liuxue, Jiang Fengqing and the others all had complicated expressions in their eyes. Jiang Fengqing remembered that she had always harbored ill intentions towards Kong Shinmu and was unhappy with him. Now that she saw Kong Shinmu enter the top 5 and bring so many points to the Jiang clan, she knew that she and Kong Shinmu were no longer on the same level. After a period of time, it was very likely that she wouldn't even have the qualifications to speak in front of Kong Shinmu. Jiang Liuxue didn't think too much about it. She just felt that it was unbelievable that Kong Shinmu's strength had increased so quickly. He was clearly just a dragon warrior with the blood essence of a mortal dragon. Zhang Rong's head was covered in cold sweat. 5th place should be this kid's limit. If he can enter the top 3. No, impossible. If that's the case, his aura will be too strong. My position as patriarch, it's very possible. Now, Zhang Rong finally began to worry. Originally, he had always felt that Kong Shinmu was just trash, and that it was impossible for him to obtain any good results in the clan martial competition. That way, he wouldn't be much of a threat to his position as patriarch. But now, he realized the seriousness of the matter. Unfortunately, Zhang Rong couldn't predict how the situation would develop. Over at the Shi clan mansion, Shi Weiying and sacred dragon Shi Tao were smiling happily at the situation. Chapter 3969. The battles for 6th to 10th place quickly ended. Next up would be the highly anticipated battle of the top 5. There would be a total of 10 battles, and the order of the 1st to the 5th place would be decided. Every difference in rank would result in a huge difference in the points awarded to each clan. Ignoring everything else, if Kong Shinmu could obtain 1st place, then the Jiang clan's final points would be worthy of 1st place. This was because the value of 1st place was much higher than 2nd or 3rd place. But if Kong Shinmu could only obtain 2nd place, then the Jiang clan would eventually fall to 3rd or 5th place. This was because 2nd place did not have many points, and the other members of the Jiang clan did not have many points. They were all relying on Kong Shinmu alone, so 2nd place would not be able to hold up. So he had to obtain 1st place to become the final winner of the clan tournament. The battle of the top 5 will now begin. First, Kong Shinmu from the Jiang clan against Meng Chong from the Meng clan. As the host announced the start of the battle of the top 5, Kong Shinmu and Meng Chong each stepped onto the central fighting platform. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, they prepared for the first battle. Meng Chong's body was burly, and his upper body was bare. His expression was serious and fierce. He was Meng Chao's cousin, but his strength was not as good as Meng Chao's. Although he did not say it, he was not convinced. This made him want to prove himself in the clan tournament, to prove that he was not worse than Meng Chao. Now, he and Meng Chao had entered the top 5 of the clan tournament. This was already a glory for the Meng clan. But he was not satisfied. He wanted to go one step further. He was even looking forward to the battle with Meng Chao. He wanted to defeat Meng Chao and prove his strength. He wanted to let no one look down on him, and know that he was stronger than Meng Chao. So to him, Kong Shinmu was just a stepping stone. Let's begin. Meng Chong was a little impatient. He wanted to defeat Kong Shinmu as quickly as possible, and show off his strength in front of everyone. In the next moment, an enormous tornado dragon suddenly roared as it soared into the sky, and it carried a terrifying innate ability of a tornado as it surged towards Jiang Shenwu. It was like a hurricane that could swallow the heavens and the earth, and it instantly shocked everyone present. Kong Shinmu's expression was calm and composed. Seeing the other party's hurricane approaching, Jiang Shenwu instantly transformed into a pitch-black dragon. After letting out a furious roar, the golden light of the heavenly Saint Halberd flickered up and down the body of the black dragon, and in an instant, he charged into the hurricane. Because Jiang Shenwu had previously devoured a power of a similar attribute, at this moment, his opponent's hurricane was constantly tearing around him, but it was unable to harm him at all. 4 symbols demonic tornado. At this time, Meng Chong instantly burst out a 4th-grade dragon martial skill. Moreover, he had already comprehended it to the level of a dragon. Suddenly, 4 tornadoes formed in the middle of the field, and then attacked Kong Shinmu, who had transformed into a black dragon. Void-piercing dragon shadow. Jiang Shenwu made a prompt decision. He did not wait for the 4 tornadoes to surround him. Instead, he took the initiative to attack one of the tornadoes before that happened. Instead of facing 4 tornadoes, he might as well take the initiative to attack one of them, which would reduce the pressure by a lot. The next moment, the body of the black dragon flickered with a golden light, and a purple magic crystal appeared. It broke through the tornado. The lethality of the opponent's attack was quite terrifying. Even if Kong Shinmu was prepared, a part of his defense was still destroyed in the tornado. The purple magic crystal on the surface of the black dragon was completely destroyed by the tornado, and then the golden light of the heavenly Saint Halberd dissipated under the bombardment of the tornado. So strong! If it was 4 tornadoes attacking me at the same time, I'm afraid I would have already died. Kong Shinmu was slightly shocked, but he had expected this result. One must know that Meng Chong was a powerful genius who could enter the final 5 of the clan tournament. If he didn't have such strength, it would be impossible for him to do so. And no matter what, Kong Shinmu was only at the 1st level of the divine martial realm. His cultivation level was 3 levels lower than Meng Chong's. Although he was prepared to rely on the devouring power to increase his resistance to the opponent's power, there was still a big gap between them. Fortunately, he directly rushed towards one of the tornadoes, breaking the opponent's sure-kill situation. Immediately after, he continued to urge the void-piercing dragon shadow to attack the light-colored tornado. The golden light of the heavenly Saint Halberd formed a huge golden halberd above him. The 3 tornadoes behind him kept chasing, forcing Kong Shinmu to attack at the fastest speed possible. Devouring Heart Meridian Breaking Wind Slash. Seeing Kong Shinmu rushing towards him, Meng Chong did not hesitate to urge the dragon martial skill again. It was another 4th-grade dragon martial skill, and this time the speed of this dragon martial skill was extremely fast. The tornado innate power in his body condensed into an invisible wind blade, and without any warning, it appeared in front of Kong Shinmu. Magic Crystal. Kong Shinmu subconsciously urged the dragon martial skill, and a purple magic crystal appeared on his black dragon body. At the same time, he tried to dodge at the first moment. Although he managed to dodge the attack, he still couldn't avoid the attack of the opponent's wind blade. As if a sword light fell from the sky, Kong Shinmu's entire dragon tail was chopped off, and the 300-jong-long black dragon was instantly cut into 2. Many people in the surroundings became nervous when they saw this scene. Shi Weiying could not help but clench her fists, and her eyes were filled with worry. Although it was not the first time that Kong Shinmu's dragon tail had been cut off, every time it happened, it made her heart ache. She was afraid that Kong Shinmu would never recover. Jiang Yuaning and the people of the Jiang clan were also nervously watching the scene. Previously, many people of the Jiang clan did not have a good impression of Kong Shinmu, mainly because of Jiang Rong's provocation. But now, seeing that Kong Shinmu carried the hope of the entire Jiang clan, they did not hesitate to hope that Kong Shinmu could win first place. Now it seems, not to mention first place, I'm afraid he'll be at the bottom of the top 5 in the clan tournament. Even his dragon tail was cut off. There's basically no hope of beating Meng Chong. Sigh. It was a waste of my expectations for him. In the end, he cheated my feelings. The people of the Jiang clan were somewhat disappointed. As for the other dragon warriors in the spectator stands, they were pleased with their previous guesses. They originally thought that Kong Shinmu's battle strength was lacking, and now that they saw it, they could finally confirm it. Especially after his dragon tail was cut off, Kong Shinmu's next 3 battles were basically without suspense. Even if he had the means to recover, It was impossible for him to defeat the other 4. In the top 5, Kong Xinmu would probably lose all 4 battles and end up in 5th place. In that case, the impact on the 17 clans' points would be minimized. Although the Jiang clan would not be at the bottom, it would be impossible for them to get into the top few. In the next 3 years, they would receive a lot less cultivation resources. But you're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.